Nicole, are we recording?
Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Provo Municipal Council Board meeting. It is March 10th, 2026 at 11:08 a.m. We will recognize the elected officials. We have Councilor Bethel, Councilor Tracy McKay, and Councilor Becky Holman. All those public meetings will be presented and those invited by the council may speak or ask questions, unless otherwise invited by the chair. Please wait to speak until called on by the council chair. Please be sure to use microphones with the record is clear and those attending virtually can hear you. Please also be sure to limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording. If you need to have a side conversation, please step out of the work meeting room. It is proposed that we approve the following minutes, February 10th, 2026 work meeting. Are there any objections or requested changes? Seeing none, we will declare them as approved by unanimous consent. We are now going to move to a closed session. The Municipal Council will consider a motion to go to a closed meeting and be presented by Brian Jones, our council attorney.
Thank you, Chair McKay. This one's a little bit odd logistically, so let me take a little bit more time than I normally do. There are actually 4 topics for the qualified for closed session that we'll be talking about today. And we're going to talk about one of them now and the other 3 after the rest of the work meeting. So logistically, just so we're all on the same page, closed meetings are not a separate meeting. They're actually they're a closed portion of the work meeting. So I'm going to announce all 4 topics. You can vote now to hold a closed session on all 4 of the topics. You'll move into the other room for the closed session, come back for open meeting. And then when we get to the end, we'll just recess and go back into the closed session. We'll have to vote again at the end of the day. So those topics deal with, there is a, there are 4 items. One of them has to do with real property. One of them has to do with litigation. One of them has to do with deployment of security devices. And one of them has to do with character and competence of an individual. That pretty much covers the whole gamut of all the reasons why we can close the meeting. And so, but all of those are on the list. So it would be appropriate for a motion to close the session at this time.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Do you have a motion to close the meeting?
I'll move that we close the meeting for the reasons that Brian has stated.
I'll second that. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All right, we'll take a vote. Councilor Garrett.
Yes.
Councilor McKay, yes. Councilor Christensen is excused. Councilor Whitlock.
Yes.
Councilor Bogdan. Yes. Councilor Hoban is excused. Councilor Whipple.
Yes.
All right, that is 5.
Okay.
Unanimous. Yes, we are just 5. We'll move to close meeting.
Recording in progress.
We are now reconvene Provo Municipal Council work meeting. First, we're going to do a presentation regarding flock safety license plate readers. This will be 30-minute presented by our chief, Troy Beebe, Captain Robert Patrick, and Captain Brian Taylor.
Thank you very much for having us. This is an important topic, and we want to make sure we cover it very well. The individual that is assigned to the police department and manages and audits our flock or our ALPR system, license plate reader system, is Captain Patrick. And I'd like him to come up and present, and we'll kind of tag team it a little bit. Captain Taylor was very much a part of bringing flock to Provo. He did a lot of the investigative work, and so Captain Taylor's here also.
Thank you, Chief. So the automated license plate reader program, flock, has been in use in Provo City since late 2023. We have Lily Ho, who is the representative from flock. I'm gonna turn the time over to her real quick and have her take about 5 minutes to explain what Flock is and the program, and then we're gonna go through how it has affected Provo City, and then kind of going forward what our plans are with this program. So if you can you pull her up real quick?
Yeah.
And Lily, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
All right, if you want to take a couple minutes and just explain Flock to the citizens of Provo for us.
Thank you so much. Council members, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you. I am Lily Ho. I am the Public Affairs Manager for Flock Safety. I cover the region for the western states of the United States, and I'm here to present what our technology does, what it does not do, and thank you for the time. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, about flock safety. We started in 2017, first as a product used for the local neighborhood for our founder and CEO, Garrett Langley. He saw an uptick in crime in his community and sent camera footage from his doorbell camera to the local law enforcement agencies, and they said it wasn't very useful. He's an engineer by trade, and looked into it and found that license plate reader technology has been around for decades, but the technology wasn't very usable, it wasn't affordable, and he set out to create a license plate reader, and that's what we are here to discuss. Our license plate readers, Flock Technologies, we first started selling to HOAs and found a market in law enforcement. As you guys may be familiar, law enforcement agencies are facing recruitment challenges, retirement challenges, and retention challenges nationwide. And the Flock safety license plate readers are able to give law enforcement officers a piece of evidence and help them do their jobs better as a force multiplier without replacing their roles at all. 70% of crimes have a vehicle involved. And with our technologies, we've been able to be extremely effective to support all types of crimes. What our license plate readers are, they are a camera launched on a municipal pole about 12 to 14 feet high. Typically, it's a municipal pole, and they face a public roadway. And they are fixed in a fixed location. They do not move, and they help capture a time and place for the rear of a vehicle. With the information of a license plate, we're able to integrate these lists onto a general cloud, which includes lists entered from the FBI NCIC lists, as well as the NCMEC lists, which are the Amber Alerts, as well as custom hot lists created by your local law enforcement agencies. So the lists are any vehicles involved in a crime. This is very typical of what you would see from our footage. It's the rear of a vehicle, which includes the license plate number, the state of the plate, and the make and model of the vehicle. What we also have in our technology is what we call the vehicle fingerprint, and it helps capture the characteristics of a car. So if in specifically a crime, the victims do not have the license plate number, maybe they know only a partial plate, but they can recognize a description of the vehicle. Your law enforcement officers can also include something like a truck with a bumper sticker, or a white truck with a bumper sticker. And this is part of the technology that helps Flock help in place of having a license plate reader. We are built with privacy in mind. All of our data is stored on to the AWS GovCloud servers. We've got end-to-end security encryption, and we've got certifications from the FBI CJIS, SOC 2, NDAA, FERPA. And I want to be clear that our images do not capture any personal identifiable information, but we do treat the data as if it has the sensitivity as if it does. You guys as customers are in full control of what you do with the data, how long you keep it, who you share with. Your data will automatically delete depending on what your retention period is. And we are not in the business of selling or sharing your data to anybody else. You are in full control. This is our transparency portal. It helps list the prohibited use cases for your flock cameras. It's also a customizable page. Your officers can put on success stories or anything else, including who you share with. And you can even include your audit trails on it. We help you comply to any specific state laws in Utah, and we help with federal limitations. Again, you choose who you share with. So if there are federal agencies that you would like to share with, if you are sharing with federal agencies, it is very clear which federal agencies they are. You can also remove and revoke access whenever you would like as well. And these audit logs are permanent. So the audit logs would be tracking who searched what, when, and why. This is our offense type dropdown. It's a tool. It's a feature in our platform, and it requires what the search reason is. The search reasons are pulled from NEBRIS, and it helps your agencies with data analytics, as well as removing any type of unacceptable or vague search reasons. In addition to the offense type reason for search, included would be perhaps if required also per Provo's policies, the case number as well. We do not share your data. We do not sell your data. Regarding federal access, there is no backdoor access. We do have a few federal agencies that are customers, and they are the Post Office, National Parks, and the VA. We've gone through this many times. We've had recent case law wins as well, but there are probably about 60 case laws around violations of the Fourth Amendment and whether license plate readers are if your agencies are complying with the Fourth Amendment in tracking license plates. And there's probably 60 case laws out there about it. The federal courts have ruled very consistently and upheld the fact that license plates are a government documentation meant to be viewed in the public, and public roadways there's no rights to privacy on the public roadways. In addition, the clusters of cameras that we would have do not constitute as tracking anyone's personal habits or locations intimately. Most of our cameras, when they're placed, they are often in clusters. So even if there are, say, 70 cameras in your town, there are likely multiple in one intersection. Again, there's no personal identifiable information in our cameras. It is just a photo of a rear of a vehicle. And oops, excuse me. Some of our partners include NCMEC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They are the ones who run the Amber Alerts, and we have found over 1,000 missing people with flock cameras and hundreds of children. MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, they are also a strong partner of ours because it turns out that most drunk driving incidents there's very little evidence, and the families have, typically in an overwhelming percentage of the cases, there's no information at all. The NAACP is also a strong partner of ours, specifically in the chapter in Oakland. They find that using license plate readers helps reduce bias in policing. Instead of looking for a specific person, your law enforcement agencies are looking for something very objective, a vehicle, a specific car, and it removes any type of subjective judgment in policing. And in Utah, there are a lot of solved case stories. I know that your officers in Provo can tell you about many, but I'll just share that most prominently. There was the triple murder over the weekend, Ivan Miller, and he was eventually caught states away. And it was our flock cameras that helped capture this person who, for no reason, murdered 3 people. And this is a case that's dear to us. It was our first stranger-on-stranger abduction. We were able to reunite this child with his mother within 6 hours. And I will turn this time over and pause for any questions, or turn this back over to Captain Patrick.
Any questions from the city council for Lily? Block. Let me take a minute. I'm going to have Brian Taylor, Captain Brian Taylor, over the operations division. He is going to talk a little bit about the ability that Flock has to help us target particular vehicles, as opposed to a shotgun effect of targeting every single vehicle when we have a vehicle description. I'll turn that over to you, Brian.
Thank you. I want to first thank you for letting me present and speak to the people of Provo. This program is important to us. It allows the police department to focus really carefully on crime. The AI search feature that Lily touched on, the vehicle fingerprint, lets us do more than merely look for license plates. We had a case involving a serial suspect in Provo committing sex crime of some kind, who would remove his plate and come to the city, and all we had was a description of a white truck. But the AI searchability of Flock let us take vehicle descriptions from victims and identify a white truck. This victim said she knew it had a stainless steel toolbox in the bed. And that identification let us focus on one truck. Without that, Provo police officers would have been making stops on middle-aged men with white trucks of an unknown model. We would have stopped dozens of cars, but Flock lets us focus on offenders and get out of the business of having to make investigative stops. We'll still make investigative stops when we must, but this technology let us focus on one person and find him really efficiently without interfering with all of the dozens of innocent people in this city who drive. I'm a middle-aged guy with a white truck. I would have been stopped. So this is a tool, this is a protection and a win for Provo City citizens, because it helps police focus really narrowly and carefully on offenders. Thank you.
One of the benefits, or I guess one of the tools that Flock has allowed us to use, is a transparency portal, which is now active on the Provo City website. If you go to the police page, down towards the bottom, it'll talk about ALPR policy. If you click in that policy, at the bottom of that, there is a link that will bring you to this page, which is the transparency portal. On this page, it talks about the number of, sorry, Becky. Sure. As far as how to go and find it, is that what you're asking for? Sure. If you can go to the Provo City page. All right. While he's doing that, I'll just describe what's on the page. It has the number of vehicle license plates that are read inside of the city. It shows the number of searches that Provo police officers are making in the database, to which correlate also to the number of cases that we have that we're investigating that involve these ALPRs, or that could involve these ALPRs. So on the police page, yes, ma'am.
Police department. Okay. And then you scroll all the way down. What does it say on it?
And it says automated license plate reader policy.
He switched thing up.
There you go. Okay, so it says automated license plate reader policy.
And then if you click on that, then towards the bottom, it's going to have link to transparency portal data. If you click on that portal data link, you proceed to the site and it will pull up specific to Provo City within the last 30 days, the number of, the data that Flock is providing to us regarding our ALPR system. So within the last 30 days, there are 84 searches that our police officers have done. In order to do a search, Lily, she touched on this. They have to have a case number assigned to it, assigned to the search, and they have to have a reason. There is an internal audit that is conducted by the police department. It's a monthly audit where we look at a specific number of cases or a specific number of searches and ensure that they were done properly, that they were done within the Provo City policy. Also, if you were to back out of this one, you can go to the automated license plate reader policy that Provo City has. You can click on that and go in and read the policy itself, where we can determine whether or not the policy is being abided by our officers. So the transparency link, it'll show you a lot of different the transparency portal will show you a lot of information about how we're utilizing that system. And that is so that the citizens of Provo are aware of what we're doing and can feel comfortable with the technology that we have. Towards the bottom, you have some recent success stories. Please go in there and read those. We've used it over the past several years to solve many significant cases. I'm going to turn the time over to Chief Beebe here real quick. If you can pull our deck back up, and then he's going to talk about a couple of how we've utilized this recently.
So I have a couple of examples that I want to provide, and one of them is hit and runs. This first case talks about hit and runs. We had an individual who was hit and killed right outside the police department, 500 West and Center Street. This happened at the 4 a.m., 4:27 a.m. to be exact. And by 11 o'clock, we were able to solve this crime. The individual was hit. A vehicle stops for a moment and then fled. Our information came from a grocery store across the street, 200 yards away. And it was very vague, but you could tell by looking at it that it was a white van. And utilizing this system, we were able to identify, especially at that early in the morning, what white van was in the area at the time. And that led us to a successful resolution. Previous case, without having the ability to use LPR, we had a young lady on 820 North that was jogging, hit, killed, and we have not solved that case. Similar circumstances with vague information and a totally different outcome. This is about serving the citizens of Provo. The victims from that case, because of the lack of that program that we now have, we're underserved. We don't have an answer for them. Sexual assault and impersonating an officer, this put checks on everybody. If you're committing a crime or a criminal, then I would not want LPR. But simply put, a correctional officer from north followed a female into Provo, pulled her over using just red and blue lights. All of these are crimes. And then groped her. She did not have a license plate or anything that would be able to identify this individual other than he had a uniform on, and pulled her over. We were able to know where she was in a point in time, collect this information, and behind her is the suspect vehicle. And we were able to solve this crime. Vehicle theft. We've had several vehicle thefts in Provo. And to say that isn't an issue, it is. This is a product that we can utilize and have alerts put out where we can find and recover these vehicles. In a road rage assault situation where someone is assaulted and they're utilizing a car, which is 70% of the time a car is used in a crime, we're able to use this information to better serve the public. The information and all of the checks and balances are there. You have to have a reason, similar to any other product that we utilize, like your driver's license or your registration. We have to provide a reason for the investigation, a criminal reason for the search into these. One of the stolen vehicles was a vehicle that had a young lady inside the vehicle. When we tried to pull the vehicle over, it fled. According to our policy, we didn't chase. We don't want to put everyone else in jeopardy. But we were able to locate the vehicle, and then the passenger of this vehicle said, "I want it out." That's kidnapping. And they didn't allow her that opportunity to get out. It scared her. And this is just another case of us utilizing this product. What I would ask the council to consider is that this is a very valuable tool to the police department. Taking this tool away will, one, it's a force multiplier by many, but it will eliminate the opportunity for us to catch people that dearly need to be caught. The case in which Lily brought up with 3 ladies that were killed, that case went into Arizona and then it went into Colorado. That's 3 states. The LPR system was utilized, and this individual, who is homicidal, was caught before he killed some other lady. I would ask that you just think about which lady in your family would you like us not to have caught this individual if we didn't have this program? Which victim would you like? And I would ask that you think of the tool, that the valuable tool that this is to the police department. It is something that is desperately needed. Questions? I'm sorry I get emotional, but I also get emotional because I love people, and these are victims. These are real victims. This isn't something of us randomly being big government and trying to spy on people.
Right.
That is not the case.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate it. Are there any questions for Captain Patrick or the Chief? Go ahead, Councilor Whitlock.
So I think this maybe is more for Captain Patrick, but it would be helpful if you could just describe the various policies and processes that the police department has in place to protect resident data in this program.
Sure. So I encourage you all through that transparency or through that Provo City page, the police page, you can go and you can read our ALPR policy that we've implemented in the police department. But as far as you said, privacy protection for the information, is that correct? So currently currently our settings on this system, on the database, you have to have multi-factor authentication. So meaning if a password somehow is stolen, an individual still can't access the information, and an unauthorized individual still can't access the information because they don't have that multi-factor authentication. They would have to have the officer's cell phone, or they would have to have their email address and be able to access. So that's one of the first line of defenses. Flock has given us a list, and I'm sorry, I'm not a computer genius. I can't tell you all the acronyms of security protocols that they use to encrypt data from the point of capture to the point of storage in our in the cloud storage where this information is stored. But that information is available through the Flock database or through the Flock company, and they've posted all of those different certifications and whatnot. Is there what?
Yeah, that's great. And then one of the things that Flock mentioned in our previous meeting is that we own our own data.
Correct.
So could you explain, for example, what that means and how we participate in the National Lookup Program?
So the National Lookup Program is a program, Chief Beebe brought up the example of this individual down in Iron County this last weekend. The National Lookup Program is something that Provo City is currently involved with. In essence, we are allowed to access, because we are part of this program, or we've opted into this program, we can access the ALPR cameras through the entire country. If I have a plate, let's say my license plate was involved in some type of a serious incident, I can put my license plate into the ALPR system and it will search nationally where that vehicle has been. Well, my car has been parked in front of my house for quite some time, so there's no ALPR camera on my street, so it would show nothing, right? But I can search the national database, and likewise, anyone else that participates in the national database, which is a significant part of the country of law enforcement, can also search our data. They have to have the reason for the search, and that is auditable by our police department. So I see all of the searches that are done, that are conducted, and I see the reasons for those searches, why they were conducted.
And you audit that monthly, correct?
Correct. That is a
All
monthly audit.
Data.
Correct.
So you also we also talked about how there's a retention policy, correct?
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So there's a retention policy. All of from the audit standpoint, the retention is forever.
The actual storage.
The actual data storage, if you're talking about ALPR data storage, it's 30 days. That is customizable. We have the Provo City, and I think nationally it's the standard has become kind of a 30-day period. And that is because after 30 days, the retention of more information feels like it's creeping into something that it probably shouldn't creep into.
Sure.
So our retention period is 30 days for our data, at which point on day 31 or day 32, day 31, that first day's worth of data is then expunged and is no longer accessible to anyone ever.
Amazing. And then my last question is, can you explain kind of the data that's actually captured, how it's not video, at least for these license plate readers, what's actually being captured?
Thank you for the question. I would, for those of you that know what a trail camera is, let's talk about a trail camera. It's a camera that's mounted on a tree, and every time an animal walks by, you have a setting on that trail camera that says, I want to take a photograph, or I want to take 2 photographs, or I want to take 3 photographs. That is the basis of where these ALPRs were created. When somebody drives by a Flock camera, the camera will it's motion activated, and it will take a photograph or 2 or 3, depending on how fast that vehicle may be going. And then that metadata is attached to the camera that took the photograph, or that took the picture, the date and the time, and that is then encrypted and sent to our cloud storage, basically, where it is searchable for the next 30 days. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions I can answer? Mayor?
I was just gonna say, Tyler, who's our cybersecurity team, there we go. Anyway, I was talking to him, and there are some, like Flock has said that they've made patches and updated for vulnerabilities and things like that, that he's not satisfied completely, because that is coming from them. And he's going to work. I just wanted to let everyone know that he is going to work with the chief and Officer Patrick and Flock, and make sure that he can have his own verification that those patches and updates are good and in place.
And if I may, Mayor, on that point, I've reached out to Flock and received confirmation back from them that they have a third-party auditor.
Okay.
That they utilize. They provided us with that information. I've forwarded that on to Tyler, so he can verify with that third-party auditor to his satisfaction or to your satisfaction that they're complying with whatever security measures you see.
Okay,
as
perfect.
appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. All right, item number 2, a presentation regarding the 2027 budget for police. So you guys will just stay here.
Well, that's good. I'll stand here. Our budget presentation is prepared by Captain Taylor. What's very good, and if you want to come up, Taylor, he'll go through some of our supplemental requests and those things. What's good to know is that I hire and surround myself with really good people, as you can tell. And it's good for me to provide them an opportunity to talk to you and answer questions. So it's good for them also. So he's going to do this presentation and I'll be here to. Chief.
Members of the council, thank you again. I'm going to talk about our budget priorities for the year. These have been developed with the support and leadership of city finance leaders who've been instrumental in helping us focus. Our mission statement requires us to constantly examine, and if we're going to accomplish our mission to work with citizens and improve the quality of life and stop crime, we have to maximize our resources and focus them where needed. These priorities are designed to accomplish that objective. Our requests this year are 2 body-worn camera and in-car camera systems. I'd like to talk about camera systems first. We have a contract with the Axon Corporation to provide, by what is now a very commonplace piece of police technology, and it's a body-worn camera system. That contract expires at the end of June in 2027. We used to have a in-car camera system that would capture essentially from the mirror position of a police vehicle what the vehicle saw during a response to a call or a pursuit. That system, when the department transitioned to this building, was already old and outdated, and moving it here would have required us to install antiquated equipment in this building, mainly data transfer points in the parking structures. We did not do that, wondering at the time if the body-worn camera was an adequate solution. It turns out it isn't. These are different technologies for different purposes. We need to reconstitute an in-car camera capability and renew a body-worn camera contract. And we are keen to do this inside one contract that manages all of that large amount of video data inside of a common video management system that's safe and secure and CJIS compliant. These systems support investigations and protect officers. Let me talk about body-worn cameras. A body-worn camera captures things from an officer's point of view, and it does a great deal to protect the officer and the city from false claims. It supports criminal investigations and allows the officer to capture the heat and chaos at a crime scene, and to capture a victim's first statement about a crime, which is important to investigators. And so we understand what body-worn cameras are for. Vehicle-mounted cameras capture another component of investigations. It captures what an officer does during the conduct of a DUI investigation from an objective third-party point of view, third-person point of view, not from the officer's chest. A body-worn camera, if you have any familiarity at all, that video footage can be erratic because it's literally on the officer's body and he's doing other things. It can be obscured by what he's doing with his hands. A vehicle-mounted system is remote. It's on the vehicle, and it can capture the officer doing field sobriety tests. It can also capture the officer's driving behavior, the suspect's driving behavior during a traffic stop. It can help him establish probable cause for a stop for that reason and show to the court what he saw. So we are missing makeable investigations for lack of this technology. Are there questions about cameras? The size of the request is, this is a preliminary quote from one corporation. There is right now an active request for proposals on the city's RFP system. It's the state purchasing network. So these represent the top end of what these contracts may be. We know at least one of them will come in this neighborhood, but this is based on adding a car camera system to our current contract cost for only maintaining the Axon contract. So this is the cost add for adding another system to our contracts budget. I've crammed a lot of work into just one slide. Is there questions about cameras?
I think you're good.
Okay, moving on. Last year, we came to the council and asked for an increase to our personal protection budget, which we use to buy armor. And I'm here to ask you again, and I want to be accountable for what happened last year. We spend that money on scheduled replacements for personal protective systems for police officers. That's the first big ticket item. I want you to think about that vest that they all wear. And it's that carrier vest that has ballistic Kevlar inside of it. The next thing, that's most of that budget. We spend the remainder of it on things like Kevlar helmets and some SWAT equipment. This year, we identified a need that we also had to replace some badly outdated ballistic shields. And just think about that shield the Romans used to carry around, except it's made out of Kevlar this time. And an officer might take that to a school shooting. We had a few of those. They were expired by 7 years, I think. They don't stop working the day they're expired, but they degrade over time. And so we bought several more of those. Now we have a need to replace similarly expired inserts. In addition to the standard Kevlar that they wear on their vests, this request is designed to let us replace expired ballistic inserts. And these are rifle rated flexible panels that an officer puts on top of the normal pistol rated vests. It goes inside the carrier on top of the pistol rated armor, and it protects the vital areas on his front and back from rifle fire. These new products, we have old products. The old ones are heavier and thicker. The new products are thinner, lighter, and more flexible, and unsurprisingly more expensive. We have 90 expired systems. This request is designed to let us equip 60 officers this year with updated systems. We'll focus those on officers in the patrol division first, and then we will use the normally scheduled armor budget to cover the remainder over the next 2 years. So this is a request for $89,400 to equip police officers with armored inserts that they may use to protect their vital areas from heavier firearms fires while responding to calls. Are there questions about armor?
This is a one-time ask. This isn't a reoccurring ask.
This, unlike last year, is a one-time request for purchasing a specific product. The products are multiplying. We feel an urge to meet the needs of officers and keep them safe while they work. These things are also going to expire, but unlike the old systems, this one is going to last 10 years rather than 5. So that's a savings over time, but this is a one-time request and not an ongoing request for an increase to the personal protection budget.
Are these more breathable than the ones they currently have?
No, that's not a factor at play. The vest itself with its pistol rated thing is a heavy, sweaty affair. Yeah. And the addition of this rifle insert isn't going to change that problem.
Do you have, so you said 10 years, have you gone through all of the different armor and things like that and say, okay, in 6 years, we're going to need to be replacing this number of units for this portion? And like, do we have a plan, like a rotating
Yes,
schedule for that?
yes, we do, but these products are all additions. So we maintain this, I can tell you that this year, in the next fiscal year, I'm going to replace 12 standard vest systems. And that's just because we replace those every 5 years. They get degraded by sweat and flexion. Those Kevlar fibers degrade. I'm going to replace 12 of those on a scheduled 5-year replacement schedule, and I'm likely to buy 10 more to equip new hires. So I expect to buy 22 of those. Similarly, all of our helmets, I've got those on a schedule, and I had to purchase a stack of those this year because they were purchased at once, and I'm trying to distribute these purchases so that they're not all coming due at the same time. So I focused this request on 60 systems rather than 90 systems for 2 reasons. One is for that, but the major one is just to reduce the bill, because I understand that city dollars are scarce. But this is the critical need that I'm asking for this year.
But you've got your spreadsheet, so you're tracking which
Yes.
things are come due, like you're rotating the food storage.
Yes, we are.
All right.
Are there other questions? In summary, those are our requests. Camera systems in the amount of $107,000 increase for a new 5-year contract for 2 camera systems, and a one-time request for $89,000 for armor.
So are these things going to be in your budget, or are you looking for an appropriation?
The camera system will be an increase to the budget, and the armor will be an appropriation. Thank you for the question.
Councilor Whitlock.
If I understood correctly, the camera systems quote from Motorola was preliminary.
Yes.
Has there been a formal RFP, and if not, when you plan?
There is a formal RFP. It is published now, and corporations that wish to compete for this contract must submit qualifying bids by April 2nd.
And so and how confident are we will that effectively, like, someone will come in at that budget? There's not going to be like a bid.
One of these corporations has submitted this bid.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
But there may be another that's lower.
That is right.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay,
Did you guys, this is the higher bid that we're talking about with cameras?
Yeah.
all right, thank you so much.
Thank you for your attention.
We appreciate all you guys do.
Very much.
Okay, third, a presentation regarding the 2027 budget for the mayor's office, and this will be presented by Scott Henderson, the Chief Administrative Officer.
What was dispatch part of ours?
Oh,
Do we have dispatch on? We have one more, okay.
yes, so sorry. Let's hear from dispatch.
Sorry, Scott, you're still on deck.
No problem.
15 minutes
We got the
ahead,
extra.
so that's fine, yeah.
I will be quick. No, you're fine. So my name is Heather Perkins. I'm the manager of the 911 Center for Provo City. We fall under the police department, but we are considered a consolidated center. So we actually provide dispatch services for 3 police departments and 2 fire departments. This is a contract that we made with Orem City, December 25th of 2022.
And then who's the third police department?
Linden subcontracts with Orem.
Okay.
So we provide dispatch services for Provo, Orem, and Linden Police Department, and then Provo and Orem Fire Department. Our budget in dispatch is divided between Provo and Orem. So we get 911 surcharge taxes from the state for a percentage of every 911 call that is made that comes into our center. That covers roughly 34% of our budget. Then the remaining part of our budget is divided between Provo and Orem. 50% of the budget is divided between the 2 cities based on population, and then 50% of the budget is divided between the 2 cities based on call volume. So roughly 34% is covered by the 911 tax. Orem pays approximately 34.5% of the remaining, and then Provo pays 31.5% of the remaining. So in our dispatch center, next slide, please. Oh, yes, I do. I'm so sorry. Which way do
Arrow.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So in our dispatch center, we are allotted 43.5 full-time positions. We staff 4 radio positions 24 hours a day. Those radio positions are, we staff a Provo Police main channel, an Orem and Linden Police main channel. Then we have a shared police service channel for all the 3 departments to be able to go to run the requests like warrants, driver's licenses, things like that. And then we have 1 shared fire response channel. So what my ask is to be able to add 2 additional full-time positions to our staffing numbers so that we can increase the opportunity to provide a secondary fire response channel for the fire departments during peak hours of the day. In the last calendar year, our dispatch center fielded 227,747 phone calls. And within the fire department's responses, we had 3,496 calls that are classified as fire calls. That's not medical, that's just specifically fire. Every time we get a specific type of fire call, which is any kind of fire involving a fire report involving a commercial or residential structure or grass fires, the way that we operate in dispatches, we give that channel, or we give that incident its own specific channel, because the call radio traffic becomes so much that it kind of does not allow for other fire responses or other medical responses to really have the airtime. It gets really muddled. So what our current operating procedure is that we will take one of our call takers and move them to that secondary fire channel to be able to cover that. And I pulled statistics that there were 1,870 fire calls that meet those criteria that we would assign to a second channel in the last calendar year. So depending on the severity of the fire incident, it can roughly take an hour or more for those kinds of major incidents to resolve. So that's up to 5+ hours a day that our dispatchers are not able to perform their primary call taking responsibilities because they are helping to cover the fire channel. So that's my ask, is that we can increase our staffing for that. Yes.
So how much of that employee would be covered by Orem and Linden? Would they also have to approve?
Yeah, well, so our agreement with Orem is that our operating budget is approved by Provo City Council. And then they pay, so we have one dispatch budget, and then they pay their portion based on the 50% population, 50% call volume.
So if we approved 2 more employees,
they would essentially be paying half of it.
So do we have the pricing of that?
On my sheet that I submitted, I did. I think that it was roughly 186,000 for the 2 positions. I can try and find my email to
And
get
would you be
specific
looking
numbers.
to just add that to your budget? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that.
It was, I don't think.
Yeah, it wasn't in the packet.
I don't think it's.
we are surprised.
Yeah. Oh, Councilor Whitlock.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
Just what does Linden contribute? I'm just confused. It says we provide service to Provo, Orem, Linden on the slide.
Yeah, so when we consolidated, Orem and Linden were a combined dispatch center. Orem was struggling with some of their staffing levels and things like that, and they just felt like ultimately it would be a better service to all of our communities because we do work so closely and because shared resources cross the borders frequently and we respond on calls together to help each other out. That it would be beneficial for both of our cities to join together. And because Linden was already working with Orem in their dispatch, they just kept that agreement in place. I don't know what Orem charges Linden.
So Linden contributes via Orem's contribution.
Yeah, Linden's statistics of call volume and population are included in Orem's portion.
But they play, the Orem percentage again is higher than Provo percentage.
Yes.
They were like 34%, we were like 31%, something like that. So I'm gonna assume Linden's portion brings it up that percentage.
Yeah, population wise, Provo does have the higher population, but with the population figures, we included Linden and actually Vineyard because Orem Fire covers Vineyard for fire response, but they don't do police response. So I believe those numbers were included in Orem's contribution.
What are the main KPIs that we track and how are we performing?
Yeah, so that's actually there's an organization called the Utah Communications Authority that has report cards that dispatch centers need to meet every year, and it tracks. We need to have quality assurance programs to make sure that we're reading the calls correctly. We need to have mental health services. We need to have a certain number of call takers answering phones 24/7. Specifically for fire related things, there's not really any national set standards or guidelines that I can find that say at this point you need to have this. It's really based on each agency and how they are able to perform and feel like they're getting the service that they need.
Thank you.
All right.
Any more questions?
I guess if you could just email us the pricing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Next is the Mayor's Office by Scott Henderson, our Chief Administrative Officer.
Thanks for this opportunity to discuss this upcoming budget year. The components we'll talk about today, which are really the major components of the budget, are staff, our intergovernmental relationships and the costs for membership to some of those, citywide initiatives, and as we work with a new administration that started in January on the accomplishments that we are going through. This is the same staff as we've had in last year. So as you know, in the past, we have reduced the mayor's office. We have reduced an assistant CAO. We have eliminated some part-time staff, also eliminated marketing and social media staff and reassigned those duties. So mayor's office, I feel like, has really led the way, along with when we were asking about lean and efficient operations. A change for this year is we have converted one office assistant where we had two in the front office, one to an analyst position, which really does match the great work that staff member is doing. And we're able to do that on a revenue neutral basis. So we're able to move some positions around amongst existing staff, take advantage of the skills and the needs of the department. This also does include media services, which is under our brand new communications director, Barb Smith. Feel like this is evident that we look for effective and efficient ways to use our staff. We are constant, as part of the budget process and pulling the citywide budget together, we are cognizant of the responding to status quo and leading out and being leaders in the mayor's office. We are always looking, and we have gone to line item detail now, looking at efficient simplification of the mayor's budget. And I think we're a pretty good example in the overall city of just doing better with less. In some of those intergovernmental relationships, these are the fees for our membership as part of League of Cities and Towns, Mountain Land Association of Governments, Utah Valley Chamber of Commerce and District Court Graffiti Program are some examples of the thing we pay out of an intergovernmental. And right now, we do not know those fees right now. So we're looking at ways that we could, if there are fee increases, that we could absorb those and or look for other opportunities to, even if we needed more money to do that. Becky?
Councilor Bogdan.
MAC fees are also a part of the CIP. So what's the difference between this one and the MAC fees in the CIP?
Well, I think MAG is probably listed as a funding source in the CIP, where this is actually our organizational membership.
I think the impression that's what it was. I thought it was spent.
Maybe let's take a look together at CIP. I can't imagine. That would be nice if someone paid that bill out of the CIP, but I haven't had that pleasant surprise. I think one thing with these intergovernmental relationships, that maybe this is me editorializing, I wish they would hold to the same budget and status quo standards of the cities that they represent. Sometimes those fees have a tendency to go up when the cities that they serve and represent seem to be holding to status quo quite a bit. That's just me editorializing. Early accomplishments in this area, I think what we would really focus on is our community outreach and some changes that we're making there. We've adjusted and refined the Provology to create a more experience-based element. We started with, we just did council last week. So we started with our administration, and then we worked the department so they get an education on the city, where I thought some of the other ones that didn't have probably the flow and the learning flow that you want from that. And so Provology continues to be a very popular program, and we have a great group this year. So our graduating class for spring of 2016 is just going to be great. Women's Day is coming up this weekend. We have incorporated office hours. I compare it very much to like a professor in office hours. Our professor and our mayor meets with, takes office hours every Thursday, and be able to sit down with citizens, and they're able to sign up with that, and really working on continued and more consistent contact with our citizens to keep them engaged through all these different elements, including Mondays with Marcia.
Scott, are those office hours full? What's the demand for those kinds of meetings? Is it regular demand?
Gotta be full, gotta imagine.
Great,
Except for not monthly.
okay.
And we try to work in.
Extra, yeah.
In a lot of ways, I would assume it helps take also some pressure off of these constant meetings throughout the day, where this is a set time to be able to come in. It has some time restrictions, and you're able to have good, productive conversations, but do though in a very efficient manner, you know, instead of maybe having extended conversations, which could disrupt the workflow or maybe harder to schedule. So these are much more consistent. So answering the council's questions as part of the memo, we do not have any unfunded needs. We are not asking for any supplemental or additional appropriations for 2027 right now. And we just don't have any fees and charges, so we're not making any major changes to those areas.
What was the budget last year?
The budget was right about 2.1 million. 3/4 of that is staffing, including the office staffing and media services. Approximately 500,000 are the line items within there for those memberships. Probably approximately 250,000 of that is those memberships with intergovernment or organizations. So that's the numbers that came from last year.
Okay. Any questions for Scott? All right.
All right, thank you.
Scott. Well, we'll take a break. We're running ahead. Yeah. But it's not listed till like 1:20, so. All right, we'll take a break.
Recording stopped.
Presentation regarding 2027 capital
Recording in
improvement plan
progress.
report. And this will be presented by Andrea Wright, our budget analyst. Now, this is a long one, guys. This is 60 minutes. This is a big one.
Good afternoon. I'm just kind of here to start the introduction and go over the format if we have any questions. And then I have all the amazing departments that are involved with CIP to go ahead and answer questions for us. So here's the table of contents. It's broken into two separate areas, the funded projects and then the partially funded and unfunded projects. And when we have the departments stand up, we're going to just kind of go in the order of airport, energy, and then have engineering come down by public works, and then go library, parks and rec, and public works, if we're okay with that. I know that you guys have had the book for 2 weeks. Is there any questions on the formatting of it? Do we need to go in more detail of it? This is just an example of a summary page with all of the different projects combined. And then here is what the top part of a detail page looks like, kind of giving the information of what the project is. And then you also have the funding sources broke up on top and the type of expenses that are involved with it. If you guys are good to move along with the formatting, we'll start with airport. If there's any questions on the airport CIPs, if I can invite Brian up. Do we have questions for airport? Kevin, could you pull up the airport funding for me?
Any page number and any title of the document.
Airport's page 4.
Are we just doing questions?
Do we want to go down into detail? We figured you guys already had the information. We didn't need to go through each project. You could just go through the questions that you have.
I have actually, it's not really a question, it's more the same for the public. This is pretty lean. And we just barely, Becky, can you tell me? This is pretty lean and we just barely authorized bond issuances. So can you go ahead and explain the projects, why the projects down in the unfunded portion are not here?
I can explain that if you want.
Go for it.
So a lot of the projects with the airport are associated and attached to grants and FAA funding. Until we actually have that approved signed grant in the hand, we don't want to put it on the funded list, especially since we have budget authority in the budget ordinance to add that expense budget later on.
Okay, I think that's great for the public to know. Can you flash down to the partially and unfunded projects so that the public can
126
visualize what is coming, and then maybe Brian can give us when you anticipate these projects to move up into the funded category?
Good question. So as, oh, that's loud. So as Andrea mentioned, and Councilor Bogdan, as you mentioned, we've had a lot of discussions about funding at the airport. And all of these projects that you see here have been part of those conversations. But to Andrea's point, we don't show them as funded until we actually receive those funds. So just going down the list, number 1, preventative runway pavement maintenance. That's an FAA grant that will be issued shortly. As soon as we have bid information, that's typically how that goes. We get the grant once we have a project bid out and we know those costs. Same with the rehabilitate 1331 runway lighting. That's also an FAA grant. These projects are anticipated to begin and actually be bid out here in the next month. And so those grants are forthcoming soon, likely before the beginning of the fiscal year. Phase 2 of the airport terminal expansion, that one's ongoing under construction. So that one has portions of FAA funding that's actually, we received the FAA grant portion of that. We received the county's portion of that, the state of Utah. So that one's probably partially funded, but actually funded. So I don't know, again, how it gets really tricky. And this is one of those things we wrestled with back and forth when we met with the administration on how do we show these projects at the airport, because there's so many different funding sources. But the bottom line is if the money hasn't been received, we don't go out to to contract with it. So some of these are actually partially funded and under construction. Phase 3 and 4 design, we're in progress on that one as well. And that one's funded through county tourism tax dollars. Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing terminal expansion phase 3. We're in the final phases of design on that one. And once we're actually out to bid on that one. So I believe it's April 18th. We'll get subcontractor bids through our general contractor Wheaton Construction for phase 3 construction. Again, that one was funded by the $20 million bond that you all just approved in the last month or so. And then snow removal equipment building, that's one's under construction, partially funded by the FAA grant, or by FAA grants, as well as an interfund loan from the Energy Department. That we've all talked about on that one. Tower equipment, that's an aspirational project that we've submitted an application for grant funding from the FAA on that one. Haven't heard back on an award, so that one may or may not be funded at all. Reconstruct and expand North Apron, so these are now future projects that we're hoping to get.
The other ones could happen in this budget year, so to speak, possibly.
Yeah, so all of them on this list could presumably happen if the grants are awarded. Some we know we're getting the grants already. Some we've applied for grants and they may or may not be awarded to us.
So the only one we have a maybe on is the tower equipment.
And the reconstruct and expand North Apron.
The rest
So
of
those
them
bottom.
guaranteed the grants. It's just them putting it in the.
Correct. So we've shown the amounts that have been dedicated and set aside through the county, the state, the FAA, and Provo City with the bond. So those are all amounts that are in process, and just waiting on that remainder of the grants to show it fully funded.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions on airport? Counselor Whitlock.
Thank you. I was just curious, so there's the $3 million airport facility improvement line item in funded.
Yeah.
Could you just share a little bit more specifically what projects that'll fund?
Yeah, so at the airport, historically, well, not historically, as we receive grants from the FAA, there's a local share, a local match that's required. We'll just call it 10%. It's just shy of 10%. In the past, the FAA has allowed us to use land purchase to go towards that match. And they're allowing us to do that on certain kinds of grants. They're called entitlement grants, but we also have what are called discretionary grants, which are competitive. And so the FAA is not willing to let us use that land match for the competitive grants. And so we have potentially a large local match requirement that will be coming up on some of these larger projects. Right now, we've got a lot of local funds going to the terminal projects, so we don't have to worry about that. But as we move away from the terminal project and we're doing, say, a runway rehab or something like that, and we get a grant from the FAA, there will be a 10% match from the city, essentially. And so as we've budgeted, this council, Mr. Whitlock, you may not remember this, but certainly those who've been on council for the last few years, the airport has been lucky the last few years to have a revenue surplus. And every year, if we want to use that, we come back to council and appropriate it. That $3 million line item budget is kind of last dollars in. So as our revenues come in, and if they're above budget revenue, it will slide into the CIP and basically build up over time so that we can pay those local match. Or if it's something we want to do a pavement maintenance project on the airfield, it's just utilizing our revenue without having to come back to council and appropriate it every single time when we get that excess surplus revenue.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Counselor Bogdan.
So how I understand this is like a bank account where the funding sources are your debits or your income, and the project costs are your expenses. So when it says taxes, I'm hearing that it is the tax specific to this department. What tax is specific to your department?
Sorry, where are you seeing taxes?
Where it says unfunded or partially funded projects, funding sources, grants, taxes, transfers. There's
Well, there's nothing there.
Yeah, so there are no
There's nothing-
taxes going towards this. So you'll see,
okay, so that's the taxes is an error in
No, it's just a formula for all the departments.
so on other departments, you would likely see something in that line item, just we're not funded by any taxes at the airport, so.
We try to keep the same format for all the departments, just to make it easier to look at.
It's consistency.
That's why there's no
It's
taxes
confusing
listed.
them too, because there's no. If they're not funded by taxes, that makes me think they are. So you're saying in the funded portion in that other page up higher, there's money for grants and different things in that?
Can you go to page 4?
Funded projects, there's a $3 million carryover, basically.
So whatever funding source applies for that specific CIP fund, it'll be listed there. Those are just the top funding sources for CIPs.
So we have, again, over the last few years, we've had a revenue surplus. And so essentially we're taking that surplus and dumping it into our CIP with that $3 million. But as we move forward, as I mentioned earlier, that's also a kind of last revenue in. Once we surpass our budget revenues, then it would go into that same.
So could we purchase land with that carryover?
Potentially, if that was the priority that we decided to spend it on.
Thank you.
Should we move on to energy?
Yep.
Perfect. Do we have Tad or Charlie that wants to, or do we have questions for energy on their CIP?
I just want to
Yeah.
make another point out. So being on the energy board, there's a lot of, can we pull up the?
Can you go to
energy
page
CIP?
7?
You guys have been saving for years to do all of these projects now. So can you just?
We save for some of them, we save for the large ones because you can't fund them in any given budget year. So we put money aside, it's therefore we do need it back. So for example, if you look at the large budget item there is transmission 90301. Substation construction transmission, and underneath it distribution. So, right, those have been large projects that we've set money aside. And it's winding down, so you're at 3 and 5 million in the coming year to finish those projects off. And then we start building again, depending on what the budget that we've identified for the next 5 years. We lay out a 5-year budget, so we know what we plan on spending and what we're gonna be working on for construction.
I appreciate that because we noticed that it's about double this year than it will be next year, and then
Yes.
it phases down just because you have so many projects that you guys were anticipating to complete.
Yeah, so
Right.
the Gillespie substation, probably familiar with, it's a very large project. And we'll be finishing that up next year, and we're also going to be changing the Draper substation. And then those drop off, and so our budget will drop back down, and it'll build back up as we get closer to other large projects, but we don't generally cram them all together for budget purposes.
Do we have any more questions for energy?
You didn't have any changes from last year, so.
No, not really. We're spending less than last year, but for the most part, our projects remain the same. We just update them with any requests.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Carla, if you want to come up for library for any questions. If you can go to page 38. 38. So here's just an overview of Carla's funded. Do we have any questions on their CIP for the library? We're good. No questions?
Are you about the elevators?
So not excited about the elevators. I mean, not happy that they need to be replaced.
Why do they need to be replaced?
Because they're 25 years old.
It's just they don't expire.
Yeah, they are not making all the parts anymore, so they're getting harder to repair, and they do have a lifespan of 25 to 30 years, and we're right at 25. We can't obviously afford to replace all of them in 1 year, so we're gonna
Right now, we have one that's people are actively getting stuck in on a regular basis, so we're getting that one fixed first. And then there's one that we rely on the most, which is the one in the academy building that goes to the attic and the ballroom. We don't have another elevator access to those points, and so if that elevator goes down, we're in trouble. So that's the second one we want to replace, but we have to schedule that out at least a year in advance because we'd have to shut down all. They say it'll take 4 to 6 weeks to replace the elevator, and we'd have to stop renting the ballroom and attic spaces out for that month and a half while they make that repair. So we're scheduling out for those and want to get ahead of them. The other ones we can kind of live without, and so we're pushing them out. Plus, we're not having trouble with them right now.
Thank you.
We're just replacing the one elevator 3, correct?
Yeah, this year.
And then the remainders are on the unfunded future CIP. Is there any risk that like we're doing like emergency repairs or replacements at a premium cost instead of just planning it now?
Yes, there is that, which is kind of why we just are having trouble with them right now. They're just telling us that they're not able to repair them in the future. And so we're looking at that and trying to, it's hard to jump on repairing elevators that aren't having issues.
There's not maintenance service requests and stuff.
No, not on the 3 that are a few years out. We did some repair work in 2019 on our number 1 elevator, which is the one that goes to the attic and the ballroom. And it's just not wood next to me as I knock on it. It's doing okay at the moment. And so, and again, that one we just have to schedule it out a year in advance, or else we would be in trouble with people needing to get to the attic to events that they've rented the space for. So we're trying to be proactive on that one and just actively replacing the one that people are, they're not getting stuck in it for longer than a couple of minutes. Like it's resetting well, and we have people looking at it constantly trying to keep it fixed, but it's the one that needs to be replaced. So we're trying to be proactive, but also trying to spread the cost out because we don't have $750,000 to replace all of them at the same time.
I have one more question on this. For the boiler replacement, I think that's great. We're saving money. Just looking though, it's like, I think it's 275K or something like that. And it's saving 25 to 50% on 60K a year, which is like a 9 to 18 year payback period, which is, I'm just wondering, is there any other benefits besides just that cost saving?
Yeah, it's 25 years old, and they are doing a lot of maintenance on it that we would like to stop. They think they can keep it going for a couple more years, but the boiler is the kind of thing that when it goes down in the middle of winter, they're in trouble.
Makes sense.
So we want to be a little bit proactive. We've kind of pushed that a couple of years. I think we might be able to last a couple more years, but this has been on our radar for a long time, and I feel like we should start saving money now, even if it's not a quick payback.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for library? All right, go ahead.
Do we want to move to Parks and Rec, and Peter's ice reading is also under them? Do you guys want to come up here or on that microphone? Whatever's best.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, any questions for Parks and Recreation? I also have our 2 project managers here that can answer any questions we have.
I have a question. Sure. On the park restrooms, what restrooms are we looking at?
All right, John.
In fiscal year 27, in an unfunded or partially funded project, we're replacing the restroom at Fort Utah Park.
They need it.
That project. And then in fiscal year 27, 28, instead of a replacement, we are looking at 2 new restrooms, one at Memorial Park and one at Lakewood Park.
Okay.
And then future year 2030 is to be determined, but kind of have some elevated restrooms that need to be replaced that are just coming for another cycle.
Then we could speak to the Memorial Park restroom. I think last year in the capital improvement plan, we suggested doing kind of a comprehensive review rather than utilizing those funds to kind of go out and identify a bunch of unfunded maybe needs that might not meet expectations over with the funding we have available. We thought we'd just take those funds and go directly and place a restroom at Memorial Park where one's needed. And so the estimate there has been fine-tuned by our project managers. We really didn't know the size of the restroom, so a larger number was assumed for the last year's CIP, but I think they fine-tuned that number.
You guys will work with the residents on where to put that?
Yes. And of course, at that time, we'll take all the feedback on master planning elements for a future time when there's funding available to actually execute that.
Okay.
But kind of one of those meet expectations type endeavors.
So the Memorial Park site plan, that's what you just referred to?
Yes.
Okay. Then the Fort Utah improvements.
Well, we've got good news.
Okay.
John's been awarded 2 grants. Maybe you can pick it up.
Yeah, the State Office of Outdoor Recreation awarded a $750,000 grant for with matching funds to go to the new Fort Utah All Wheels Park. And then more recently, we applied for and received a partial award for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. We had applied for $2 million, and they had awarded 40% of that at $805,000. So it's in the bidding category of partially funded right now to bring forward the restroom and playground replacements there with those funds. And then we are looking at strategies of how to bring the parking lot improvements along with all this other improvements in the next year.
Is that 40% based on matching then for the other 60%?
There is a match component, but the $805,000 was just decided by the selection committee.
That's just what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Nice work.
Okay, so you mentioned parking. Parking is definitely an issue there.
Yes, it is.
So you're going to increase the parking.
Yeah, so we have designs to bring the parking lot up to about 240 stalls, which would allow full programming of the baseball, little league field facilities, as well as the new all wheels park and the trailhead that parking serves for. We have potential phasing ideas where a third of that would be built at a later time. But honestly, the initial expansion is likely about $1.2 million. The second phase potential is about $800,000.
Oh, wow. So you're missing 2 million.
For the full expansion, yes.
These are the challenges of going for grant funding and being awarded partial. So it really throws a wrench in the project, overall project.
Because that parking is crazy. And if you're going to make it an all wheels park, plus these other amenities, will actually become more desirable, which will just be. I hate the parking on Geneva. I don't think it's safe.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Councilor Bogdan.
So if we go to the unfunded projects, I agree with the parking. The parking on Geneva, we get complaints from the residents. It isn't safe. It's gonna, yeah, it needs, that parking lot needs to be addressed. So which ones are we hoping that move up? Is it just the Harmonville?
You say move up?
Move from the unfunded to the funded in this fiscal year?
Yes, those two we're hoping to move forward this next fiscal year. The Harmon Park playground and lighting is for field lighting replacements and the playground replacement there. We are seeking different funds to match with some RAP tax funds to make all those improvements on that park.
So the 705, is that all an ask from CDBG?
No, it's partially from CDBG, partially from an outdoor recreation community grant and from RAP tax funds.
And can you explain the dire need of the lighting replacement at Harmonville?
Yes, the lighting at Harmon Park is about 35 years old and is due for replacement. We have the opportunity to replace those with efficient LED lights that give better control, even potential remote options to control the lighting there. The poles have been evaluated. They're wood based. The standard today is a metal aluminum pole with a concrete base, but over time those wood bases deteriorate. We've had them evaluated by Energy. We appreciate our partners there, and they will be replaced likely before the end of this week. There's 2 poles that are being replaced there this week.
Thank you. And then the RAP tax funding, where do we have a breakdown of where that's going
Or Harmon Park,
for all of it?
I don't know if that's.
We can go to each different line item, sorry. But it's not, we don't have a breakdown of everything that RAP tax is just in that slide.
Oh, I think we were sent one a few days ago of where everything is going.
Is that something we see in CIP, Justin, or
It's
is
not
that?
really something that's
Okay.
included in CIP.
So,
Sorry,
yeah,
go
it might
ahead.
be a separate.
That could be another budget presentation.
So that could be something that when Parks comes to us, we can ask questions about where that RAP tax is going.
Certainly.
Cause I'd like to have that discussion on which line items there are. And
Yeah, I think the draft that we've got out right now is a separate document from the CIP, so I think you have it, but it's probably not included in the capital plan.
I will add that the individual projects do have an outline as our tax. That is the only taxing source that Parks and Recreation has. So in individual projects, RAP tax is represented there.
In taxes.
It's in taxes
Yeah.
for the individual project.
which is important because so many of our people really rely on that to improve our parks.
Marcia?
It's Doug's last day here.
Last day or last week?
When's your last day?
Next Thursday.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
it's next
still-
Thursday,
still.
but
That's
it's
our
our
last
last time here at this meeting, so. Anyway, I just wanted to recognize him for all that he's done and, anyway, just thank him again.
And I appreciate it. It's been a wonderful experience serving with you all at Provo.
You'll be missed, Doug.
Is there
What
an
an
open
honor.
house? Or did you open comment?
Is there an open house? I would hope so.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm a party guy.
tell us,
Tell you the truth.
party yourself here. No,
On our last day, I thought I'd celebrate with our Parks and Recreation Board in our board meeting, but anyway, again, it's been a real pleasure and an honor to work with you all. Thank you.
well, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
I had one more question about the Fort Utah part. So it's gone through the process of the citizen committee and everything you have it all outlined what you're gonna do.
Yeah, that was performed about 1.5 years ago. And then we've been in a funding generation phase to bring those funds to fruition to deliver the vision of the community.
Could you send the design to us?
Sure.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Counselor Whitlock.
Thank you so much. I just have a few questions. So one is, I see that we're planning a master plan update, park master plan update. You mind just elaborating a little bit of what is triggering that and what that'll include?
Sure. It was decided, I think 1 year ago, that we would get together and do a more consistent impact fee analysis every year, which will really enable us as new projects come on to get them into our impact fee analysis and impact fee facilities plan. If projects are not listed in that plan, they can't be funded through impact fees. So I thought that was a real brilliant move to move to a more frequent update to that. We thought it would be a great time because our impact fee facilities plan and the study require an updated level of service analysis. That happens in the master plan. So it would really sequence well if we updated the master plan and then that informed the
Impact fee
IFF
study.
Yeah. So those are both scheduled for the next fiscal year. And we'll be working on schedule with the other departments to make sure we're slotted in. And then it'll be updated every year and we'll stay current.
Okay, great. Another question I had is, I think in the last year's CIP, there was a partial allocation for Upper Bicentennial Park to start doing, I think, the planning work that I think is now getting pushed forward into next fiscal year because of the Buckley draw issue. I saw also, I think, in the stormwater CIP that there's $250K allocated towards that. I just wanted to understand if the plan is basically essentially to get the prerequisites for the Bicentennial Park done by next year as part of the CIP, or if the process will be longer. I don't know if that question is kind of a dual question.
Yeah, I think the strategy was to move it 1 year so that we can do the public feedback process, get the neighborhood design committee going, design out what the park will look like in concert with Public Works and whatever facilities will be designed there. And then have 1 year separating so we can go to work and try to identify outside funding sources to to leverage that project and then immediately start construction the following year.
Right, so the plan is for this year to kick off that planning process, the citizen design committee process.
Yep, I think
in
it's
this
the-
fiscal year.
And the following, bring that up and. I'm afraid of. I
Oh.
think next year.
42.
20?
42.
So Bicentennial Park, I think it was.
Early here.
It's 28.
Okay, 28.
So those funds have not been expensed that were appropriated this year. They're controlling forward.
And it'll better sequence and timing, so as we design it, people won't be wondering, why isn't my park being built? We just designed it.
Makes sense.
And then other priority doesn't come in, take precedence, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll have Public Works. Any questions for them? I don't know if Gordon or you each individually want to come up here. And first, before they do, I want to say that it's the departments that actually put all this together. Finance, we just put a silly book together. They're the ones that do the hard work and we really appreciate them.
Which one's first?
Doing roads?
I can go. There won't be many questions, so. Did you want any explanation or just we're gonna fire off questions? Most of this is similar to previous years, just overlays moving through.
I don't have any questions on this one. I have questions more on sewer. What the website sewer includes.
Chairman Kate, real quick, Gordon, which is the 2230 North GPP signal, is that the MAG funding that signal last, is that the signal that was brought up a month ago at the meeting?
Yeah, so this is not the one on Timpanogos. This is one, that's not that one. This is a signal that we have good support for this signal.
Why was 2026 street overlay removed?
What was that again?
2026 street overlay?
And that was the current year funding. So every year we.
Oh, you're just saying it's done.
So 2031 is added,
Right.
2026 is dropped.
Right, obviously. Thank you.
Do we want to go in order of how it's listed on the, so if we want to go to engineering 30?
Okay.
Okay. So just to make sure we have this one, the MAG fees, they're okay here? You're okay paying
Yeah,
that from
so-
the mayor's office?
Yeah, so we get most of the money. No,
I was
so
wondering if Gordon lost the arm wrestle between Marcia and Gordon. at his
this
family
makes
dinner.
this makes sense. We really felt it should have gone into the parks budget, but no, so we get funding from this, and instead of putting it in operations where we could have shown it, this really makes sense just to have it in our capital, because this is where the money goes to once we get it from MAG. And so we just wanted everybody to understand we're using this money to pay our yearly fee to MAG, and so it's a clear approval. We'll be paying that.
And we're still doing school sidewalks, the 1020 south and the 2050 and the 590 south ones are all in that school
So-
sidewalk category.
So the ones we're doing this year were out of last year's budget. Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking if that 1020 south, the 590 south and the 2020.
She's looking at the line school sidewalks and she's saying the numbers herself. They're not on there.
Detail page.
Oh, so you're asking which sidewalks this one specifically is with? That actually represents a couple different projects, so we just have it in there for. Let's go to the detail sheets.
Touch the board.
I did, and I'm not gonna do that again. I was gonna blame the staff over here for, what's that big smudge over there?
I don't know that I've got the individual projects listed in that project page, but we can get that information maybe separately.
Okay.
So.
Page 36.
So if you look at, today you received the capital project list update. The very last page of that update that got emailed to you lists all the projects. And once those go out to bid, you'll see those go in as active, but those projects are the ones you'll see right there. So you should have that list.
Okay, I'll get that.
Any other questions for Gordon?
Well, I have questions for Gordon on the sewer, but not this one. What does the west side sewer entail on this?
I'll let, go ahead.
West Side Sewer is the trunk line on Lakeview Parkway from 620 north up to the northwest lift station. It's broken out into the first 2 years. First point gets us just south of the high school. I think it's about 4 million. And then the other 5 million is to get up the rest of the way to the northwest lift station.
The one,
Boundary.
the one that's in Broadview Shores, close to
Yes.
20th North.
Yes.
No, stormwater.
We don't have a trunk line from there. Okay, and then once it gets to the lift station, then it gravity flows back down to the other lift station by the airport.
Yes.
And then it gets lifted back up and it gets pushed out down the parkway, up 1100 west and out
Yes.
1500 south and over. It's crazy that we have to have 2 different lift stations for all that sewer. Okay, thanks. So it's not the actual secondary trunk line along the Lakeview Parkway and then up 1100 and over. It's northwest.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
You can see where that is, where we didn't finish Lakeview. We only have half width of Lakeview Parkway there. That's where we're still need to install the sewer trunk line. So you can physically see that area out there.
And then after we install that, are we gonna pave it to a 5-lane road or are we gonna still wait?
We'll do it at some point. There's whether we do it now or wait till capacity demands it, we will wait till afterwards, but I don't know how far afterwards.
And how close is Orem to getting their section of the parkway done?
It'll be a few years.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we want to continue to go to each different divisions, or do we want to just see if anybody has questions for Public Works? Public Works, they kind of skipped it when we went to storm. We can go back to sanitation at 68 if we want.
Will we be done with the Franklin fallout stormwater thing after this project on 5th South and 7th West?
So we will, we're in the process of updating our master plan. We've got the draft. One of the concerns, because Franklin area, Dixon area is one of the major problem areas for stormwater. It's still part of the city that never really got an adequate stormwater system. What we had our consultant look at is all the stormwater in the area goes through an old irrigation system. And it even goes under the Dixon school. So that's been one of the priorities, to get that system, irrigation system, and properly drain the Franklin Dixon area. What we had to look at was, in the old plan, everything flowed south, across underneath the railroad, and then over to, Footprinters Park area.
Yeah.
So that system's in place, but one of the things that was in the old master plan was putting large detention basins in parks, Dixon school area, their playground area. So we had a consultant, as there was different options to do that, to carry it west, which we had to look at. And if you go back to the CIP, you'll see the change. You'll see 5th North and 2nd West down on the bottom too. What we had to change is we're actually, instead of flowing that south, we're gonna actually flow that west.
And we're gonna get a large linear detention basin along the railroad property that we already own instead of the parks. Franklin Park and the school system. And then that way we can get it to the river instead of pushing it all south. It'll actually feel it's like less expensive and something we can get done much quicker. So that's why when you see Franklin, we've actually switched that to those projects. But the area that you're talking there, yeah, we'll be finishing for a while, and it'll take a lot of the flow, some of the flow in the Franklin area north of the railroad and areas that will done, and then hook over to Fifth West, what UDOT did a few years ago. We're gonna connect and kind of split flows.
So how long are we looking at it that's fits south and southwest project that we currently have going?
We can be done this year, so contractors started out there, and then we have some additional work to get it over from 7th West to 5th West.
Fifth West?
Yep, and we'll be doing that also this year.
And we're gonna be doing that down Fifth South?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and while I have you up here, Shane, are we looking at, we still keeping our garbage system? I'm hearing weird rumors. We're not looking at outsourcing, correct, Joe?
That was one of the reasons why we brought sanitation into the city, is because the service, the quality of service. We felt, and I think that's been the response of the residents on everything we've heard. So absolutely not, that hasn't been something that, now commercial is outsourced, has always been, residential has always been, when we take care of that. And there's no topic of changing that.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask you about, like, what's the infrastructure needed at Quail Orchard Park, seeing as that was just built? Like, why is there already necessary infrastructure?
So that area, the northeast area of Provo, is also one of the problematic areas. Any new development now, we have everything flows to Canyon Road above, east of Canyon, and it flows all south. So that pipe is already at capacity. It has issues. Well, was to help address some of those issues, and which it has. But north of Quail, you keep going north, we still have problem areas. We also have annexed in the northeast area now, so we're gonna have additional development. That project now we moved up because that area with the new development, and also the development that's already happened has and will create a bigger issue. So with the developer, and they'll be paying impact fees and those things, we moved that project up because it's looking to be developed, so we want to get out of that issue. So that what we'll do there is at Foothill, instead of pushing all that stormwater south, we'll actually push it down Foothill and over to the river. We built some pipe systems in the past that are large pipes that are just for this project in the future. It's just been moved up because of the new annexation and the push to develop that area. It's required us to move that up.
And should we be building more stuff right now then until that's done, or?
Building more
housing.
If we get this in, and that's what we're looking at, if we get this in, I think this really takes care of that problem. This will alleviate a lot of our problems in that north.
So it's piping from northeast all the way down to the river.
Yeah, so piping up Canyon Road from Foothill and then down Canyon Road and tying to some pipes that we had done in the past.
That are already there, that are just not being used.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been anticipating this for a long time, and we just haven't done anything because that area wasn't annexed in, and there was a lot of decision making going on. Once that was in and looking to develop, now that's put a pressure on us to move that forward.
Thank you.
And then I want to your question you had about there was 250, I think, for Big Drive. That is, so they're finishing the channel up there. The 250, once it hits Slate Canyon Road, we're actually going to take that flow and bring it underneath the road. So we're finishing the design. We're going to bring all that flow underneath the road into the park temporarily, and just transfer there. If we do have anything that comes down right, we drop. And then as they start the park development and concept plans, we'll work with them to allow our stormwater system to be incorporated into that.
So the 250 covers bringing it underneath Slate Canyon Drive.
Right now you see that draw coming down.
Yeah.
And it just hits the road.
Yep.
So we're going to be building a pipe system that takes it underneath the road over to the park.
Yep.
And then kind of we'll route it through the park, just through a ditch system into our stormwater system, the south distance. Okay.
It won't be an open channel anymore. South of the road, it'll all be piped.
It'll go underneath the road into the old park property.
So it'll just be piped underneath the road and piped into the old park.
Right, and then we're gonna build
It'll
kind
be
of just
open
a,
channel.
we're gonna kind of we'll build an open channel that takes it down to a pipe system that we have just south of the substation. I think I was not into, so the substation pipe right there, south of that substation, that's new pipe that we're gonna be putting in. To convey that all the way down to State Street, the UDOT road in our pipe system.
So there will be no piping south. It's like, can you do it?
South of, it'll just go into the park.
No, that's north. So south would be.
South of Slate Canyon Road there, yeah, there is piping in there, it's just too small.
Oh, okay, so it's already piped. So
It was never built to handle the flows that come from the mount, from the draw, from Buckley Draw. Or the system we're now is building to handle those flows that would come out of Buckley Draw.
So you're upsizing the pipe to the south, and then you're bringing it underneath, and they'll pipe it down to the expansion piece to the park. That's a lot of pipe.
It's a bit, so.
How big?
We're looking at 48 to 60 inch pipe. So it flows in the 150 to 200 CFS.
And how do you keep kids out of it?
We put bars, bars on there, and then we also do that so that as flows come down, we'll clean it as flows come down.
Thank you.
I to go to sheet 30. I thought this would be good just to give one quick explanation on this. So the city, so I'm looking at go up to the 5th North project. This particular project's on our CIP of the capital projects. We put this money in here as a placeholder. Last year we spent all our money on sidewalk projects, but one of the things the council had suggested last budget season and what they talked about this year as a priority was capital or economic development. So what we're saying is, oh man, look at the black smudges there. These guys are terrible. Anyway,
Blame traffic.
so what we're saying is, once we see what comes out of your economic development study, if you want to do a Center Street, which we're saying is about $10 million, it would take about 3 years to do the plan and study, get that in place. We're starting what we'd call a little bit of a war chest if you want to do that. So we could spend that money on a bunch of sidewalks this year, but if you're thinking that you're going to do something big in 2 or 3 or 4 years, this money is kind of set aside in a placeholder in a current capital project that's in our master plan. So we could move forward with our master plan, or we could look at doing that based upon council decision.
So exactly what is this project?
So this is to extend 5th North over to 9th East. It's in our master plan, transportation master plan. I'm not saying do it. We just picked a project that was a first phase, high priority project that had been selected. Not that we're thinking we want to do it. I'm just saying this money, I'm not touching it, so it's all good.
Well, I think that'd be amazing if we could get that done.
Yeah, I think that.
And the owner.
Yeah, right, it's a good project, but I'm also saying if the council thinks it's more important to do Center Street, which is $10 million, or if you're thinking that an economic development project to get something exciting in Provo, just throwing those out there. So this is an important project, but I'm just saying if you select something different, that may be his decision.
But doing this, it gets flow east-west connectivity.
No, it's
flow,
great.
right?
So I'm not dissing the project. I'm saying phase one. So if you don't find something more important, we have it here. That's what you're voting on. So I just was giving you some thoughts that we had heard from the council. I wanted to be able to accommodate what you end up choosing. So that's the whole story.
Councilor Whitlock.
Underneath the stormwater section, there's the $60 million levy in unfunded. I was just curious, what's the planned timeline on this? And
that timeline is way out there.
Okay. What's the purpose? What's the risk profile?
So right now, we're bringing you a FEMA program because a number of homes now are going to start paying flood insurance because the levees aren't certified. We are going after looking at grants, opportunities to see if we can get, this won't be funded by the city. This will be outside funding if we get it. So it's something we are aggressively looking at and trying to solve, but it's going to be a challenge to get that much money. We need COVID to strike again. We could, no, that's so if we get funding, we would get into that, but that's Brian has met with us and Shane met with the administration, and they're looking at some options of trying to address this. And so we're looking at a whole slew of things.
Is there any coordination needed on that thread with the river standards project that Development Services is doing?
For now, until we get money, we're not going to do anything.
Okay.
And so I think let Development Services run their course, and we'll have that as part of what we ever design or get into if we get some funding.
Okay.
But Jeff, I do want to say there are homeowners that live there. The trees are not going to be allowed to be in the new dike, right? The new FEMA standards say that no trees.
Trees have challenges because they have roots. And so at the end of the day, we will look at it to save as many trees as possible, but a lot of trees will probably need to be removed.
And so there's homeowners that live along there that would prefer not, and I can't say every homeowner, but there are homeowners, and I have heard them say, we would prefer it to be as it is, and we prefer to pay the flood insurance than turn around and have to revamp that dike and take out the vegetation.
And I understand all that. What we're saying is we think there's probably some justification to find money to get people out of the floodplain. We have an uncertified dike system. We're looking at some other alternatives that, like I said, we're discussing, but if we get funding, we will be talking about this in much more detail. But today we have no funding, so nobody is cutting trees down.
Thank you, Gordon. All right.
Is that all we have for Public Works?
I think so. Anyone else have anything else for Public Works?
We're good. Perfect. I think we're done then. Thank you, and thanks, departments.
Thank you, everyone. Okay. All right, next we have a resolution amending the 2026 Provo Standard Drawing Details and the 2026 Provo City Public Work Department Development Design Standards due to changes in the minimum street width requirements. And this will be presented by Gordon Haight. Oh, and we're trying our new thing with the timer. So have our presenters go 5 minutes, and then so we leave most of the time for question and answer.
No, and I think what you should do is if we get to 2 minutes, we get a prize, and a better prize for 1 minute. I think
Everyone's favorite candy bar here.
I'm just saying we're going to do this.
Ready?
Yeah, it's not clicking. I'm already losing seconds. Okay, so we talked a lot about the road standards, so I don't want to necessarily go into a lot of the previous discussion. So I wanted to talk about a couple options. This is the option that the council kind of voted on last month. This was where we kept the 24-foot section. This would be for, this way. If we had
Infill.
Infill.
See the word infill in there?
Yeah, in the first line, right?
Oh, there. Okay, sorry. I was looking in the black. It says, so trust me, this is what you said. No, infill and also hillside property. We kept it in that the 80 feet still had to be less than 400. There was discussion that infill was not a well-defined word. And so what we're saying is this kind of puts guardrails on it if there wanted to be more definition. And then also the fire marshal would have to approve it. Then this is kind of the original statement, which is adding fire marshal as being part of the design, the one we recommended. Questions answered. Did I get in under 5? There was a lot of discussion last time, and so I didn't feel like I needed to I could go back and explain it all again, but if that's helpful,
Yeah.
but.
Thank you, Gordon. Anybody have questions for Gordon? Councilor Bodkin.
So I'm confused about the hillside. I mean, we have the hillside standards because we obviously don't want them to build up the hillside or not too far up the hillside. But yet we want to allow 24-foot streets. Doesn't that permit them to build further up the hillside?
So the standard isn't going to require them to go further or up further. What it's going to do is where they can go, it gives us flexibility to reduce the size of roads so there's less cuts and fills. So the ordinance won't allow them to go further up the hill. It just allows the roads maybe.
Because even with the standards, they're still allowed to build on areas that aren't the 30%, but you have to get there.
Bill, I don't know if you were going to say something.
Yes, this won't increase how far they go up the hill, but even the critical hillside overlay zone when it was written recognized the value of narrower roads in a hillside area where cuts and fills could be much more extreme for a wider road. So in a hillside environment, narrow roads actually can help substantially minimize environmental impact. Is that correct, Gordon?
Yeah, that's correct. Does that go against my 5 minutes or we?
No.
Okay. So the growth boundary is set by property ownership, Forest Service, 30% slope. But to get to where we've sort of set where you can't get to, those roads could be wider. And if we did, the cuts and fills would be more severe on the hillside. But we're now looking at the hillside that was adopted by the city allows some discretion by the city to really try to help minimize the cuts and fills we do up there. So this is another way of doing that, accomplishing it.
So if we said no to 24-foot roads altogether, that doesn't necessarily stop them from building.
The area where they can develop will develop regardless if we put up a larger road. If you eliminate this, they'll still develop the exact same area. It just may require us to do larger roads to those sites that and again, we haven't seen full design, but the bigger the road in the hillside, I know we're going to have bigger cuts, bigger fills. And this just gives us a little more flexibility to keep that from happening.
I don't know how I feel about that, because if you have to have a smaller road to get up to a place where you can build.
They won't, regardless of whether you have that in there or not, they're going to build to the exact same place and they will not get above it. It's just the road that gets to it.
I get that.
Okay.
But I also am seeing that if you have to have a smaller road in order to get up there, to me, it's probably not worth building, even if it's a 30% grade to go up it. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Councilor Whitlock.
And I just want to clarify the one that is being recommended by you all is option 3.
It's to leave it that we have it and then add the fire marshal approval to the design. So once you select this, we can fix the ordinance either way. We've been working with Brian on that, so that's the one we're recommending.
And can you just elaborate on the rationale for that?
Well, I think that this size gives us a lot of flexibility in how we are designing subdivisions. I think it gives developers an opportunity to do something a little different everywhere. We have such a cookie cutter industry out there in our development process that anytime you can add some flexibility to accommodate different types of uses, I think you're going to be better off. I think there's going to be people that enjoy their neighborhood more. We're hearing that with small roads, others with larger roads, but it gives the ability for that kind of flexibility to have where people move in. We want people to be happy when they move into their subdivision. We want them to like it and enjoy it. And I think developers can look to the market and then that flexibility exists. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know if Bill wants to add any more to it, but no, he didn't want it anymore.
I definitely think developers go often just pick it because it's cheaper for them. It's not about who's living there. And as it stands now, none of these people who have had their roads built even know that they're gonna have parking cut off on one side.
So one of the things you can look at, the list of roads that, so we have a preliminary list of roads to look at. In the last 6 years, since this has been on the since this has been adopted, since 2018, there's probably been less than 10 roads, 12 roads that this has affected. So this is not it's not
Yeah, it's not like widespread everywhere.
it's being done in a thoughtful, considerate process. So I'm saying we're not seeing just a wildfire going crazy. This has been, people thought about it, they discussed it, it's happening. And I think it's happening in a way that is making subdivisions better. But that's
Why are there still no signs? Why is parking still?
that's a flaw with Public Works, and we are right now working on that. And that's something we're working to talk about. We're sitting down with fire and everybody to make sure we've studied this out well.
Councilor Whitlock.
If I recall from the last meeting, that was a commitment that was made by Public Works, is that we would have those signs installed.
So the new
prior
ones we
to the
have,
new-
but we want to communicate to people before we do that.
Yeah, I'm saying for new development.
Yeah, new developments, we're doing that.
Yeah. So that for new develop, because I think to Councilor McKay's point, I think in the past there hasn't been signs and people kind of get in
They
and
have
then
no idea.
they buy a home and don't realize that there's this restriction, and so
No, that's
at least is
that's a
critical
flaw.
point. Okay, thank you.
Any other quick, Councilor Hoban?
I think this is good on paper. Unfortunately, my concern is just around the enforcement of the parking. And it all hinges for me on whether or not it's viable for us to be able to enforce this. And, you know, you say 10, 12 streets, something like that. I mean, there's probably a few more around the city that I think we're looking to enforce on that were already in
Yeah,
place.
those are just new ones. There's
Yeah,
there's
no.
a lot more.
So, I mean, that's another 15 streets that have to be patrolled, and, you know, we have to make sure that there's parking on one side. So my concern is around the viability of being able to enforce on the parking side. And so that's my big concern with this is if we both short, mid, long term are able to maintain that enforcement. I've seen other cities where they just kind of give up on it and don't enforce. And then all you've done is now create a parking on both sides. That's a narrow street that maybe doesn't comply with fire standards and such. So just voice my concern on that. We could talk more about it tonight, I guess.
Is there, what was option one?
Pardon?
We see
Go back
option
to
one.
option one
What, option one?
right there.
This one isn't one we're thinking about, I don't think.
Okay.
If we are, I can go back here. But
No,
this-
we're not.
Okay. So this is the one that I think we had talked about. I can just tell you, Bill doesn't give up, so he'll keep doing the enforcement, so he's a good guy. No, so this is the one that you talked about, I think, last time, and then this is the one we're recommending.
Okay, any other questions for Gordon? Councilor Whipple?
Oh, well, and then Justin will be after me, but it doesn't sound like from your presentation that you feel like this 24-foot width has been abused.
I don't think it's been abused.
Okay.
That was the word I was probably looking for when I was stammering.
That's what it felt like. Okay.
Yeah, the daylight savings has taken a little bit of my thesaurus out of my head, so
It's bad for all of us.
it's so bad. Yeah, we gotta fix that.
Can we do that as a city?
Yeah.
Down to daylight savings. Well, I want to opt in permanently. That's what I'm change your life.
Chairman. So I don't wanna stymie any potential debate for tonight, but I think it would be helpful on the staff side to have an ordinance draft that was prepared. Is there feelings on the council, any desire to make a motion so that there's something prepared for tonight to actually speak to, or is the preference to go through these options in the night meeting?
The hard thing is Craig isn't here and he's gonna be here to vote tonight.
I would say just logistically, as far as that goes, we drafted an exhibit that has all three options on it. It's in on base and attached to materials. So it's actually, if you want to wait, it's pretty easy. You just need a motion to delete the two options that you don't want, and we're good to go.
Not have to remind us of that when it comes to that. He pretty much knows that.
Look, I'm on it.
Do you want any more presented than that for the meeting tonight? I was thinking, again, being fairly brief since there was a lot of discussion last time, but if we want more discussion, I can certainly present more. So.
I think it all depends on how many people are here to speak to that item.
Okay. If we're over 6, we'll do one present. No.
This is happening.
We'll try to gauge what we want to do.
There's nobody there that really cares about anything, then short and done. But if there's a lot of questions, I would prefer you guys presenting you them.
We'll try to gauge how much, and we'll certainly be there for questions. So.
Okay, thank you, Gordon. Alrighty, next, an ordinance amending the zone map classification of real property generally located at 1507 South, 180 East from the planned industrial commercial zone to the planned industrial commercial data center overlay zone. This will be presented by Dustin Wright.
All right, thank you. So here's the site that we're looking at on this item for this data center. Here's a closer look at the property. The zoning on it is zoned planned industrial commercial, and they're looking to get the data center overlay, so the new overlay zone that we have applied to it. General plan, there's more on the site. I'm just kind of skipping through these. If there's anything we want to jump back on, I'd be happy to, but there's a look at it. And here's the proposed site plan. So they originally started looking at doing on-site power generation. Through the process, they've moved away from that. They're looking to just do power generation, power from the Provo City grid. And they've proffered to put that into a development agreement that they wouldn't do any on-site power generation. The other thing that they've proffered to put in a development agreement would be for a closed loop water system to address the water usage that we often hear that comes with data centers. And so that'd be a closed loop system to reduce the amount of water that gets used there. The other thing that came up at the Planning Commission related to that was about that, I guess, after a certain amount of time, they need to rechange that water with some new stuff. And there's concerns that it potentially could be like a sludge that gets built up and discharged into the city system. They are not going to discharge into the city system. They would have a third party come and do that. So they also proffered to put that in to a development agreement. I don't think that's in our current draft of the development agreement, but I think that's something that can get added. So that's kind of a quick overview on this project. If there's any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Dustin? All right, thanks, Dustin.
Okay.
All right, well, we are way ahead of schedule. So we all are gonna let's do a 20-minute break. You want to do a 15-minute break? 10? Let's do 15. Oh, wait. We don't want them to come early, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
20 minutes.
yeah, we have 20 minutes.
Recording stopped.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
There's a presentation regarding the 2027 budget expires, which will be presented by our chief.
This will work.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all giving me a little bit of time to talk about our budget. We'll start off with just some of the highlights that we've done, some of our successes in the past year. One of our big successes is our WUI program. I talk about it every year. This year we cleaned up 281 cubic yards of debris throughout different areas in the city that needed stuff cleaned up. Another really big success is our shoreline, Bonneville Shoreline Trail. We've stopped 2 fires this year where the aggressive fire attack was able to get ahead of fires and stop it at that trail where our crew had gone through and cleared it. So super proud of the work that both the firefighters do as well as the crew that goes and cleans them up. So our fire prevention office has done some great work with a bunch of business inspections. We've had 57 fires they've investigated over the last year, and we've tested 80% of our hydrants so far. We've also been able to acquire two new engines. The fire engine up there kind of on your right is we have 2 of those. And we also got an ARF truck, which was FAA funded, and a new ambulance, airport rescue firefighting truck. Sorry. And we are putting on a heavy rescue school in this spring, starting in the end of March. And that teaches all of our technical rescue skills, confined space, trench rescue, high angle rescue, all those kind of things.
Or do we teach that to other people in the area?
It's a county-wide team, and so we have seven people going to class. There's closer to 30 in the class, so it's county-wide training. Our instructors teach a portion of it, and then instructors from around the county help teach it as well. We were able to send 8 firefighters to paramedic school this last year, and that was a successful budget appropriation from last year to get us the funding so we could get that many students into school. We do deploy our wildland team throughout the country. We've been to a lot of different places. We go all over, mostly the West. They deploy for 14 days at a time, and the biggest benefit to this program, though, is that it helps prepare us for when we have wildland fires across the Wasatch Front. It helps get us trained, people that are qualified and trained in the wildland industry. So it's a big success for us. So some supplemental requests. This first one is not a supplemental request. It's just kind of an informational thing. We have the 9 firefighters that were hired with the SAFER grant. That grant runs out in March. However, there's going to be roughly 600,000, 650,000. We don't have the exact numbers yet, but a portion of that will be remaining from what we were awarded with the grant, and we're going to reapply for that. And the intent is to pay for that to fund us through the rest of the year of fiscal year 27 and hopefully a little bit into fiscal year 28. Then on the next item is to hire 3 new firefighters. And the intent there is to cut our overtime budget by the cost of adding the 3 new firefighters. And what that's going to do for us is help us. When we send people to paramedic school, they have to take time off. If people call in sick, they take time off, which in turn costs us overtime to backfill. So we always have firefighters in their positions. And this will allow us to have some depth in it on each shift. So 3 gives us 1 per shift. And that just will give us a little depth and take a little pressure off our overtime situation. The $36,000 is for one-time equipment purchases for PPE, turnouts, radios, those kind of things that we need when we add an employee. The next item is for EMS equipment. The $9,000 is for iSimulate program, which is a software that will help us better train for cardiac events. The $115,000 is for 5 new ventilators to replace our ventilators that are 15 years old and very difficult to get them serviced anymore. And then $4,800 for new airway bags, which we like to replace these things all at once so that if we change, they're all the same. So when a firefighter goes from a different station or a different ambulance, they know exactly where whatever equipment is in there, they know where to get their innovation equipment, and it's in the exact same place every time. And then we have fire training. We've asked for $11,000. 8,000 of that's for a two Connex boxes where we would put them at Station 3 back by the tower and use those for training. And then two $3,000 mannequins, or 3,000 for two mannequins.
Can you just quickly say what a Connex box?
Yeah, so it's a metal box that is roughly 8 feet wide and I don't know, probably 8 feet tall. Has the big bifold doors. You'll see them on semis often, but people use them for storage, or in our case, we're going to use them for storage as well as we'll use them for setting up training props for different kinds of firefighter training. It's exactly what it is. Shipping container is a good way to say it.
Just wanted people to understand why a box would cost that much.
Yeah, that's for two of them, but they are.
Yeah, but they're not just like a little tub that you throw in the back of your car.
Yeah. Thank you. So one of the questions is, how are we recovering our costs? And we bill for our EMS standbys, which we do a lot of with BYU, as well as for marathons and different events throughout the city. And then when we deploy, we bill for that. So far, our revenue for this budget year is $293,000. We've billed more than that, but that's the revenue. One of the things that we're pretty proud of is our employee retention in the fire department. We're down 2 firefighters now due to retirements. We have one more retirement that's looming. And we feel like the city and the mayor and the council have been instrumental in helping us keep employees by competitive pay, keeping our merit steps, and the COLA raises we've had over the years. But also probably the thing that we're the most proud of is the culture here in Provo City. People, as you saw in when we did our last new hire, we're bringing in people from other departments that have a lot of experience, and that's because we have a great culture here. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Chief. I was just curious on a couple points. So the nearly $300,000 of wildland deployments, is that typical, or is it this year atypical?
This year, it depends. That's lower than last year.
Okay.
So I would say that's pretty typical or more for revenue.
And are there any marginal costs or incremental costs associated with those deployments on our end, or is it purely just money that comes to us as sort of quote unquote profit?
Why it changes, you mean?
No, I'm just saying that that 294,000, do we take on any additional costs to deploy, or is that fully covered and we just get the 294 as revenue?
So we've billed closer to 500,000.
Okay.
And so there's costs for the employees to go.
But those are all fixed.
They're
all full-time employees, correct?
Yeah, but there's some overtime costs because they're working every day for 14 days at a time plus travel time. So yeah, there are costs that are in addition to their regular full-time employment.
Okay.
That one thing I didn't mention is that program pays for our WUI program. So part of that $293,000 in revenue is what funds us to have the people out cleaning up brush and making sure that we're doing the best we can to minimize our exposure to wildland urban interface fires.
Thank you. And thanks for all your help up by Buckley Draw. That was right by my house. So I appreciate the great effort from the fire there.
Budget human resources. This is presented by our Human Resources Director, Dan Gasoffi.
All right. Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't submit that blurry, so I don't know what's going on there.
It's nice to see everybody again. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about our budget. In answer to the questions that were submitted by the council, in summary, we are making do with the budget that we have. So we don't have any, I don't believe we have any unfunded or underfunded needs. We don't have any supplemental requests last year or this year, and don't feel like we are currently constrained in any of the things that we do based on our available budget. We do have, you know, like with other things, we have a lot of third-party vendors that provide services to us for, you know, drug testing, background checks and stuff. And those are periodically going, but we've been able to offset those increases by trying to find efficiencies elsewhere. One of the things as an internal service fund, we are very limited in our ability to collect revenues or, you know, recover some of those costs. And so our focus has always been on doing things as efficiently as possible. And I wanted to highlight some of those strategies that we use. As a good example, we regularly go out to bid for service renewals. This came into play last year as we got a renewal for our workers' comp, which is obviously tied to our performance, how many accidents that we have. We had a bid for our existing vendor, and we went out and a competitor vendor came in, and we were able to save $160,000 with our renewal last year, which was very good for us. Also, one of our big expenses that gets felt by all the departments is our benefits renewal. These are our medical insurances. Right now, our renewal rates are beating national trends. So we look at the Millman Index, which is the cost of living indicator for medical insurance. That's coming in this new year at 6.1%. And actually, our renewal is currently trending below that, which is a great testament to our employees making very educated, smart medical decisions that benefit them. That is actually an amazing thing considering, you know, if I look around at some of the other agencies around us, they're still, you know, having increases above that Millman Index. And so Provo is doing it right, and we're quite proud of that. One of the other line items that is benefiting our budget is we used to have an old program of employees hired before 1987 carried their medical insurance coverage up to the time that they're 65 for them and their spouses. And as we get farther and farther away from 1987, we have retirees that are aging out of that program, which has a decreasing line item for us, which is very helpful. And then another good example of kind of the way we're trying to be efficient is in this last year, we signed up with an AI vendor for our workday support. This allows us to access that system to say, if we need to change our configuration, we can input that and they educate us on how to do that. That's significantly cut down on having staff on hand that have to, you know, be available to teach us how to do that. So these are some of the efficiencies that I think we do really well. Just to highlight some of the key areas in our recruitment, our full-time turnover is trending downwards. All of our performance indicators in the written report they're moving in the right direction. This is one of the ones that we focus on. And so our full-time turnover is trending downwards. More importantly, our turnover for other employment is also heading in the right direction. We've been making emphasis on reducing the number of days from the close of position to selection. We've actually shaved off 6 days since the last time we made this a goal. And then we do our executive recruitments in-house, which each time that we do it in-house saves us about $20,000 to $25,000 from hiring a consultant. Chief Hedman mentioned a couple of these in his presentation, but in fiscal year 2026, we did our annual grade study again. We implemented our 2.5% COLA and our annual merit raises. These are all factors that go into moving our turnover down in the right direction as well. Benefits in 2026, as I mentioned earlier, we changed our workers' comp carrier and saved us money there. We also reconfigured some of our health insurances, went to self-funded plans that saved us about $80,000. In our dental, we had a 0% increase on our stop loss premium. Just to give you a sense, if a 10% increase in your stop loss premium is about another additional $250,000 in premium costs. And so that 0% we're quite proud of that. And then we did enhance 401k for our non-social security participants. One of the key things that we did this last year that helps retention as well. Those are, if you recall, for public safety. They're the ones who don't participate in social security. Our wellness, as we went through our benefits negotiations, we were actually able to secure another $20,000 in credits from our things. So that allowed us to reduce some of the money that we had set aside for our wellness program. And so we used that money to then roll out a summer wellness program that ended up doubling our wellness participants. Some of you participated in that and hiked the mountains around us. So that was pretty cool. Always want to give a shout out to payroll, mainly because right before I hired on, payroll was a mess. It was constantly there and always, having to change things. And I always want to remember that our payroll staff is doing a stellar job. We get it done accurately and efficiently. Past couple of audits from URS in this last year. So I want to make sure they get a shout out. And then our last in our records management area, our software that we use, Workday, we renewed our contract with them for 3 years at less than the amount that we have on our current one by changing some of the configurations. And then I mentioned using AI to reduce our tech support costs. So for all, in summary, our budget looks really good for the next year and not making any additional requests. So any questions?
Any questions for Daniel?
No question, but I just want to say thank you for finding smart efficiencies.
Yeah.
It's a really good example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Chair McKay, councilors, mayor. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Well, first of all, just in case any of them are watching, shout out to my team. We've got a fantastic team up in legal, a great atmosphere and great people, and I love working with them. It's a pleasure to come to work every day and work with the people that I work with, not only in the office, but throughout the entire city. So we're divided into 3 divisions. Here are the things that we do, most of which you've seen before. Our primary goal, kind of similar to what Daniel was just saying, we're an internal service department. Our whole goal is just to serve the rest of the city. All we do is provide service to everybody else. Everybody else is awesome, so we try to provide awesome service. That's our goal. And we do that by working on a number of different things. Any major initiative that the city's involved in, we end up being involved in too, which feels sometimes like taking credit for other people's work when we try to tout that. But we get involved in everything, and we work on a lot of documents and agreements and partnerships. We've had some good accomplishments this year with a major trial victory, a case that had been going on for 16 years that we finally won. We had some real success in claims recovery, which is where we actually file claims against others trying to when they damage city property. We are involved in a lot of different systems. Again, none of these are really kind of us by ourselves, but we try to be involved in what everybody else is doing and try to help their tools be better. Here's some numbers about the scope of our service. We're pretty busy all the time, and we try to keep up. Budget-wise, as with some of the other departments, ours is pretty much all personnel. That's what we do. Here is a graph over the last 30 years of our budget, and adjusted for inflation, which I always like to throw up there just to show that we're, as Scott likes to say, we're trying to do more with less. This is kind of a joke slide. I labeled this TMI because this is a graph that nobody but me understands, but I still include it every year because once I went to the trouble of making it, I couldn't take it out of the presentation. So here's the real slide for everybody else, which just shows that our personnel has stayed mainly flat, except for just a couple of times when we've been asked to take on additional duties. And here's the one that probably is my second to last slide and probably the only one that's really worth talking about as far as being something new. So 2 years ago, we reported that we had applied for one of the city innovation grants to start using AI technology in our legal research software. And last year, we reported that we'd gotten that grant, we had the software, we were using it, that we felt like it was helping us quite a bit and helping us to be more efficient. And then everybody else in the world went and got it too. And now we're outnumbered. So the problem that we're facing with AI is that when we use AI, it makes us a little bit faster because we go in and we submit we use it to do research, but then we have to vet what it tells us and make sure that it's accurate, and still need to read the cases, and we need to edit the documents that it produces for us and make sure that they're valid. Everybody else on the other side doesn't have to do that. They just put in inputs, take the document that they get back and dump it on us. And we're seeing ever increasing numbers of that happening all the time. And so this was kind of our case study. We have one particular case, and we've actually got multiple cases that are in the same category. This was just one that I threw out there. We've got one case right now where we've got what we call a pro se litigant, which is someone who is not represented. Historically, those cases were frustrating to deal with, but they were mainly just a question of dealing with 10 pages of trying to decipher 10 pages of handwritten arguments that didn't make a lot of sense. Now it's turning into, those cases are hundreds upon hundreds of court filings that are dozens of pages long that seem to make sense until you do all the research to vet them. It's not just a city, but a county, statewide, national problem. Just last week, I went to a meeting of all the city attorneys in Utah County. We met out in Saratoga Springs, and every single city complained that they're facing this. It's turning into a nationwide problem for the court system. Appeals are up because people are losing their case, and then they're hopping on ChatGPT and giving it half of the information about the case and asking if they should appeal. And they get back that they should, and so they appeal. So appeals are up by 3 or 4 times in our 6 times, my criminal deputy is telling me. So appeals of criminal cases, which require brand new trials, are up 6 times over previous numbers. The civil cases are going like this. It's even just affecting kind of day-to-day business outside of legal cases, because I've noticed a few instances lately, you've probably noticed it yourself, where we get a question, we answer it, we do the research, we answer the question. 6 months ago, that would have been where our work stopped. But now in response to the question, we get a link to a ChatGPT analysis of our answer, and we have to redo the work and respond to that. And that's even happening just outside of the litigation aspect and just our day-to-day work. So it's a big challenge. I don't know that I know what the answer is. I think eventually the courts are going to have to respond. I don't know how Councilor Whipple, what Councilor Whipple thinks about this, but I foresee eventually the courts are going to have to say, these are the 5 kinds of things that you can do in the case that you're in, and if you file anything other than these 5 things, we're going to ignore it. I just don't see how the courts are going to be able to maintain any kind of efficiency. And on the one hand, people are probably saying, hey, this is giving us better access to the legal system. But when the legal system gets completely deluged by this, it's going to rob access instead of increase access. So it's something we're pretty concerned about. I bring it up here mainly because despite the fact that we spent 2 years telling you AI is making it so we don't need more people, now it's starting to feel like AI is making it like we will need more people.
So is there an AI response for this or no? Is there a tool to help with this or no?
Not really. I mean, you can, yes and no. It's better. Our response to this is better with AI, meaning we can take those same AI documents and we can throw them back into AI and process those AI arguments faster than if we had to process them without AI ourselves. But there's not a hard and fast solution because, I mean, those of you who have experience with AI, you know that it tells you its answers with complete confidence, whether they're right or whether they're wrong, right? And so, but we have an ethical and professional responsibility to do the work. You know, you've probably heard the term work slop,
those
right?
that are filing don't.
We get lots of work slop in, but we can't put work slop out. So it's an interesting conundrum. Anyway, then I guess my last slide was just, again, we love being part of the Provo team. All of us are honored to be here and we're grateful to serve, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, couple questions. One is, so that you raising this point, is that basically you're saying it's manageable now, but you foresee it potentially becoming unmanageable and may require some sort of a budget increase or appropriation either for tooling to address it or for headcount?
Yeah, that's the point in bringing it up. 6 months ago, I mean, again, we haven't asked for an increase for a long time. 6 months ago, I would have said we didn't even need one. The last 6 months, we've seen this trend spike in the last 6 months, so it's really going up. Now, what I'm hoping is that maybe, like I said, where I proposed kind of the court system, figuring out a way to handle, I'm hoping that there will be an external solution that somehow solves it. But I'm bringing it to your attention now. So if a year from now I'm saying we just absolutely can't keep up, you'll know why.
And then to that point of an external solution, do you think that this is something that Utah League of Cities attend? Like, is it perhaps a state legislature, like legislative type of solution, and not just waiting for the courts to do something administratively?
That's an interesting question. I mean, it's probably an AOC issue, right? An administrative office of the courts solution where they need to be thinking about it and probably recommending solutions to the legislature if they actually need legislative solutions. They can do some of it themselves through court rules, but that's not a fast process. They have to propose their rules and have committees and put them out for comment. And so none of the solutions that I can think of will be fast.
Have you seen some recent example, like could you share a recent example of this that affected the work of you and your team?
Well, so the one case that I mentioned is probably the most prominent example. Rich Roberts, who's our chief litigator, who's not here at the moment, but he's been handling that case, and he had 100+ filings by the other party within a 3-month period. Normally, in that kind of time frame, you're talking about 3 or 4 filings, right? And not every one of them had to have a drafted response, but every one of them had to be reviewed to see. And at the end of the day, they're all kind of frivolous and a waste of time, but you can't ignore any of them under the system that we've got right now.
So litigating attorneys are using AI to file 5x the number of, or 10x.
Well, it's non-attorneys. It's the people the people who are not represented. So they're going into the AI and they're just dumping a bunch of information in, probably a lot of times not dumping not very much.
Not the right information.
Right, not the right information. And then they're getting stuff out. I mean, again, this isn't an uncommon trend that we have these pro se litigants filing frivolous things, but it used to be that there was a finite set of things that they were copying off the internet and filing, and we all had seen them before, and we all had a finite set of prepared answers for them.
Right.
And now
AI is doing novel things, but they're not necessarily good novel.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're just gonna need to update the vexatious litigants statute or rules or.
Right.
I mean, that's the solution.
Yeah.
That's not a city level solution.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it also leads to our loss. You have people who would not take the time to figure out whether they should file a lawsuit, doing it anyway. Because ChatGPT is helping them be ready.
Any other questions?
All right, now we have the 2027 budget for customer service, presented by Amanda Berger-Bratt, Director of Customer Service, and Larry Gonzalez, Business Operations.
Thank you for having us. I know Laramie says this every year, but we really do have a pretty boring budget. So I think since you've heard 10 of these today, we will be very quick. But please let us know what questions you have. Our budget report, we are very well aligned. We don't have any unmet needs or anything that's underfunded. We also haven't had to utilize any supplementals outside of our regular budget process, and also not in this year. So we're doing really well. Our goals are that if you were here last year, you remember these are the same goals. The first few are very important in maintaining the level of service that we provide to residents and the people calling in. The last goal, we've kind of changed. We always want to be involved in the community. In the past, we've gone out and we've done volunteer work. We've done things like adopt a trail. We've volunteered at food and care. This year, the mayor has kind of given us a new inspiration. She has a great vision. So this year, we're really working on, trying to think of the best way to say this, being a conduit for people in need and helping them access the services they need, like 211 and other community services. So we're just kind of changing the way we help. Here are accomplishments, a lot of software upgrades, which I hope you haven't noticed these, because if you haven't noticed, it meant it went well. So we did well. We have 2 new certified business licensing officers. We've also won an award. We've been busy and hard at work. So before I turn it over to Laramie, just a huge thank you to him. He does great work on our budget, which is why he gets to help me present. So thank you.
Now for the fun stuff, the numbers. In the box on the top, just kind of remind everyone that customer service is split up into 5 different divisions, if you will. Admin, billing, IT, call center, and business licensing. I put up there the approved FY26 numbers, just so you have a basis of comparison. And what we're proposing for FY27, you can see there's the difference there at the end, not a huge difference in each one of those categories. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in customer service is mainly in our billing and IT mostly, is we have a lot of third-party maintenance contracts, that software contracts, a lot of those things that really we contract out to help us get those services that we need available. And across the board, we usually experience about a 6 to 7, in some categories this year, an 8% increase on every one of those contract services. So this year, we was able to consolidate some of those, move some stuff around, and in some of those that we had budget for last year, we're not using this year, and we was able to absorb that increase and still kind of ended at a net zero, kind of bottom line of we don't have any real increases in our operating budget this year. I think what's interesting about our operating budget is if you look at the graph on the bottom, it kind of gives you a good idea of where the majority of the money in our operational budget is spent. So if you look at billing and IT, 2/3, that's about $800,000 of our $1.2 million operating budget is spent in those 2 categories. And again, that is mainly around those maintenance contracts. A lot of it, especially in billing, is around utility bill printing, the archiving of those digital bills, those kind of things that are just happening outside of customer service. So kind of gives you an idea of the impact that those things do have on our operational budget. If you look at the box on the right, just kind of give you a well-rounded perspective of what the impact of the overall budget is for customer service. By the time you add in the 1.2 million in our operating budget, and then you add in the chargebacks that we don't really have too much control over, and the personnel, of course, personnel is a big expense, but we are not doing anything different with our personnel this year. We've not added any positions. We're not doing anything like that. The bottom line, the customer service budget is just under 4.3 million. So that's our overall budget. As far as supplementals, I think Amanda already mentioned, we're not going to have any operational supplemental requests this year. And what's kind of good to know, we haven't had any for a number of years. We haven't really asked for anything supplemental wise. Everything that we've done, all the improvements we've made, we typically try to find ways to cover those just to try to be sustainable as we go forward. We just want to make sure that we work with what we have available to us and make the best use of that. So again, no supplementals this year. And just an overall summary, there's no bottom line changes to our budget this year. So again, like I always say, a little bit boring, but that's where we're at. Is there any questions for me or Amanda?
So I appreciate that you're able to keep it so it was no net change, but so it looked like you were taking from IT some of these programs maybe that you're not using anymore. And where is it going in administration?
So it's kind of an interesting, what happened this year, we ended up with a new executive office assistant this year. And just working with her to kind of understand the budget and have her help us pay our bills and whatnot. She's asking questions like, oh, and she came from another city prior to coming to Provo. And she says, oh, we didn't ever pull that money from that particular line item where it came from. We didn't actually spend that money from that particular area. We always did it from here. And so as we got talking through those things, we're like, oh, that's some pretty good common sense. So we can move things around there to make it make more sense rather than making more work, as far as like our trainings, for example. Training was one of those things that typically we would divide up amongst all of our different divisions because we're all in the same training together. And then we thought, well, why are we making all of that training, the expense split up 5 different ways and charge it 5 different things? We just thought if we put training, put it all together in one particular area, put it here, we just charge it once, and it just makes that much more sense. Probably one of the biggest ones is when it comes to the maintenance contracts. We did have some where, like, for example, the maintenance contracts that normally before when we had a number of different ways to track our calls. And just with those software pieces all going away and putting some of those together and putting POB together with our web services, things like that, we no longer try to split those items out in the budget. And so for those reasons, we just was able to kind of include that, absorb those costs, and that's why it looks like there's an increase in admin. It was simply just to consolidate some of those expenses that were split up in the other divisions.
So just kind of shifting away from like a cost accounting principle to more of a standard government philosophy.
Yeah. Well, Ed, I'm just so happy to hear that you got fresh eyes on there that helped you look at what you've been doing to be better. That's always nice. It's probably also reassuring to know that you were doing good things as well.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Next, we go to station, the council office, like this, guys.
All right. Good afternoon, council. Hopefully this will be your easiest budget presentation, knock on wood. But I'm just going to briefly walk through the proposed FY2027 budget for the council office. And if you have any questions, feel free to jump in at any time. A majority, if not all of this information was provided in quite a bit more detail in the attached budget memo. But to give you and the public a general idea of what goes into the council office budget, the majority of the budget comes from personnel. Over 82% of the budget is personnel based for staff and council members. Operating is just under 15%, and then our chargebacks, which go towards other internal service departments that you've heard from today, is roughly 3%. But the proposed budget that we'll talk about today does not have any new requests for supplementals. Operating budget remains relatively flat. We have implemented cuts based off of last year's contra budget in our operations. So those have been made permanent, and chargebacks have remained flat as well. So to touch on the one place where there are increases in the personnel budget, this is based off of anticipated 2.5% performance-based merit increases that finance budgets for each year across the city, so long as there are positive performance reviews from employees. Additionally, last year, the council went through and updated job descriptions to create more alignment with many of the positions in the council office, and that compensation adjustment is reflected in this year's personnel budget. And the last piece is last year, the Elected Official Compensation Commission met. They meet every 4 years to determine compensation for elected officials in the city, the mayor and council. And so last year that was implemented. In the current fiscal year, that was implemented in the first pay period in January. So it only had roughly a half fiscal year effect. So we're feeling the full implementation effect in the coming fiscal year. So those are the specific reasons for changes to the personnel budget. Other than that, some of the legislative accomplishments from this year, from the council and where the council office has assisted in supporting the council, have been across a variety of policy areas, including housing, infrastructure, and redevelopment. The council adopted the $319 million current FY2026 budget, made advancement to impact fees, as well as changes to Title 14 through various rezones and the ongoing zoning rewrite, as well as strengthened health and safety standards in the housing space. And then looking forward to FY27, specifically the council's budget priorities, the council office is working either with departments in coordinating those budget priorities or working in-house, pursuing data such as housing data to support a comprehensive housing stock audit, working with economic development to assist in the RFP of the economic development study, and with code enforcement and customer service in coordinating this multi-department external business process review. And lastly, just as far as budget alignment and council goals, it is really the purpose of the council office to help bring those priorities that the council has set to fruition. That is what we are putting our focus on currently and will be in the next fiscal year. But as far as the budget goes, we don't anticipate or have not proposed any supplemental requests for new programs, staffing expansion, and we'll continue to provide whatever services and research are required or requested by the council. So with that, are there any questions that I can answer? Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Next, ordinance enacting and item restrictions for certain commercial trucks. So presented by the council's team.
Terrific. Thank you, council. This is a council issue tracking item or issue item that was sponsored by Councilor Bogdan, the second by Councilor Whipple. The intent is to address potentially negative effects from increasing numbers of heavy commercial trucks that are using commercial spaces in the city to park. So if you can reference the ordinance and the exhibit attached to the proposed ordinance, this ordinance would do three things. It would prevent or would restrict or prohibit heavy diesel trucks from idling. It would apply only in places on public roads or public property and to private property that is open to the general public. It also allows for a few exceptions that are kind of common sense exceptions for why a vehicle of that nature would need to idle. Speaking to the rationale for this issue a little bit, there's Councilor Bogdan, the issue sponsor, has noticed an uptick in the presence of commercial trucks. As the analyst, I went out and I tried to observe as much as I could in the East Bay area and also in commercial areas that I can use for comparison, the truck stops in Springville and commercial areas in other cities. And I've noticed the presence of a few of these heavy diesel commercial trucks. I have more detailed information about my observations if you're interested in that. But I would say that in the commercial areas, it does not reach the traffic of a truck stop, which are commonly full during the nighttime hours, but there still is a limited presence. One of the main causes for concern in regard to these types of trucks using commercial areas are when there are an interface in between places where residents live and where the trucks are utilizing the parking spaces in the commercial structures. And there are a few examples of that I've been able to find in the city right now. And as commercial and residential areas expand in the future, this could become an issue in other areas as well. So the potential benefits of this in terms of limiting negative effects of heavy diesel truck idling would be that it would simplify the enforcement of the current noise ordinance, and that the current noise ordinance requires measurements of decibel levels at a certain distance. And there have been some concerns, as I understand it, in the past for the implementation of that enforcement. So this would address that as it pertains specifically to heavy commercial trucks. And then it would also address potential for localized pollution and odors that are emitted from diesel trucks that wouldn't be covered by a noise ordinance. As far as notes on how this ordinance would be enforced, I've talked with members of the patrol division and leaders in the patrol division, and they have expressed their willingness to enforce this ordinance if it were to be passed. However, that should be taken in the context of their duties in daytime hours. Patrol officer responding to a high volume of calls. And so they would rely pretty much exclusively on complaints from residents to help them know where to go, and they wouldn't necessarily be actively patrolling with this issue in mind. Also, the council should be aware that there are limitations on how the ordinance is written. So if you have any questions about why there are certain provisions in the ordinance language itself, the state actually requires that this be primarily educational and that there be one warning given before issuing a citation. So there's not likely to be a lot of fine revenue accrued from this. I talked to the 8 other municipalities in Utah that have an anti-idling ordinance for all cars, not just for trucks. And none of them were able to provide me a record that indicates they've ever enforced a fine on this.
What's the ability for officers to knock on the door and say, you got to shut it off, right? That's the basic gist.
Exactly. As I talked with the officers in other areas, other municipalities, they say enforcement generally is low. Warnings even are generally very low on a yearly basis, but there have been those kind of rare instances where idling has become a nuisance, it becomes a problem, and this gives them the ability to act on that, a complaint. So the proposal before the council right now is to move this issue to a night meeting, and I can answer any follow-up questions you have.
Makes sense.
So I was noticing that you talked about the different classes of vehicles, and this is only going to apply to like the biggest of the trucks that would potentially be idling. So this wouldn't affect like, I think last year during the season at some point we had some big vans or big trucks, buses parked next to the Covey Center for the cast. So it wouldn't affect them because that's a Class C transport thing.
Correct.
And it wouldn't necessarily it wouldn't affect the people who go and camp out in the BYU parking lot during education week, where they're there with their trailers and RVs. So it doesn't affect that use either.
No, it would not affect recreational vehicles. It would not affect people picking up kids from school. It would not affect people waiting in the parking lot after sports practice.
All right. I just wanted to be clear that this is actually a fairly limited thing for just a particular kind of vehicle that's
Big rigs and semis.
Yeah, big rigs and
Correct.
semis, those will all be diesel, and those are the ones where we have gotten complaints from adjacent residents who are noticing the noise and the fumes.
Sure, yes. Yeah, so I put this image up on the screen. So it would only apply to combination unit trucks, so tractor trailer, that are weighted over a certain gross vehicle weight rating.
Thank you.
So I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's narrowly crafted and makes sense. The one thing that I just was a little curious about is why 1 minute as opposed to 2. I guess my only thought is like, if you need to warm it up in the winter or something, and there's just like a little bit of like transitional time where they're idling, is it potentially too strict? Like, where did you land on the 1 minute?
Yeah, so I have a spreadsheet where I compiled the criteria from those 8 other municipalities that have an anti-idling ordinance. The most common one was 1 minute. There are other people who do 2 and 3. So if at the council's discretion, you can change that. I'm dispassionate about that particular point.
I imagine I mean, correct me, I imagine the real problem is not a minute when people are warming up their truck or whatever. It's leaving them on for a long time while they're in the cab.
That's
watching
correct.
movies or whatever.
That's what I was
sleeping, yeah.
So I just want to clarify. We do have a limited amount of truck parking space here. And we can't shut that down completely because we do need trucks to deliver to our people. And Walmart has been a big player in, even from what I understand, they advertise it so the truckers know to go there. And Walmart in Springville, I've witnessed more than 10 going down there. And I'm witnessing more and more and more in East Bay. East Bay is starting to become a truck parking center. So I didn't want, when I did this, I didn't want to restrict where they go because there are more problems with them using the bathrooms out in the parking lot and and other things, but that's a whole different issue. And I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole either. And I didn't want to restrict it to just every single vehicle in the city because this is where we're getting the complaints and this is where I can see is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So if the human waste problem becomes more of a problem, we have to come back and address that. Because, you know, truck stops provide showers and bathrooms and food and all different kinds of things. But there's that, yeah. So that's why this is so limited and so narrow. I figured if council had the appetite to go bigger, to go all vehicles, which I didn't have, then that was a discussion that council could have.
I like the narrow focus.
Great. I just wanted to add, Councilor Whitlock, because I just pulled out that spreadsheet. There, I actually misspoke. There are 3 cities that have a 1 minute time limit, and there are 5 that have 2. So there's actually more cities that have 2 than 1. I don't know if it will make much of a difference because, as you say, it's not necessarily a police officer sees them and then starts timing them. They're responding to a complaint. They'll wait for an adequate amount of time, and then they'll make the contact. So, but if you'd like to, if the council wants to change it from 1 to 2, I don't mind either way.
All right, do we have a motion?
We need a motion to move.
Yeah, they want a motion to bring it back to evening meeting.
I make a motion that we bring it back to the next evening meeting.
Second.
All right.
By next, we're talking not tonight, but.
Yeah.
The 24th.
All right, we'll take any discussion on the motion. All right, we'll do a vote on the motion. Councilor McKay, yes. Councilor Christensen is excused. Councilor Whitlock.
Yes.
Councilor Bogdan.
Yes.
Councilor Hoban.
Yes.
Councilor Whipple.
Yes.
Councilor Garrett.
Yes.
So that passes unanimously. All right, thanks, Tanner.
Terrific.
I think you're staying right there, aren't you? An ordinance requiring payment of civil fines to renew a rental dwelling license. This will also be presented by Tanner.
Terrific. All right. So this is an ordinance that will add a single grounds for denial, revocation, or suspension of a rental dwelling license. This issue item is sponsored by Chair McKay and Vice Chair Christensen. The rationale for bringing this is twofold. First of all, I should say current code allows code enforcement staff to deny, suspend, or revoke a rental dwelling license for code violations as it stands right now. However, it does not allow the staff to deny, suspend, or revoke, otherwise I'll just refer to it as losing a license. It does not allow the loss of a license in the case that there is outstanding fines that have been unpaid. So this is what this ordinance seeks to address right now. So it does two things as far as the actual language of the ordinance. It makes that single grounds, the failure to pay outstanding fines, a grounds for loss of a RDL. And then it also adds clarity to existing language just to make crystal clear the fact that a violation in and of itself is grounds for a denial, suspension, or revocation. So this also, I think, has a relatively limited scope. I made this graphic just to illustrate what is actually being impacted and what is not. So in the blue column with the blue house here, in the case where there's a violation, the owner resolves that violation without accruing any fines. And for example, they are able to correct that violation within the 14 days on the notice of violation. Under current code, there's no risk that they will have their RDL threatened or they will lose it in any way. And then under this proposed, that would still be the case because they have come into compliance and there are no fines involved. In the column with the greenhouse on the other end, we're talking about someone who has failed to come into compliance and they are accruing fines. Under current code, they would be at risk of having their, denial, their renewal denied and having their license suspended or revoked. The part that will be changing with this proposed ordinance is if an owner has a violation, they fail to correct it within the required time frame, they start to accrue fines, and then those fines are not waived, and then they do not pay the fines. Then, whereas before there was no risk of losing their RDL, now that risk does exist. So the potential benefits of this is one, it serves as an incentive for people to promptly pay the fines, so you do not have lingering large outstanding balances that are unpaid, and provides an incentive to have that accountability measure. That fine actually has the teeth to it. And then secondly, the kind of less common or less obvious benefit of this would be in the case that a denial or a suspension revocation is challenged or appealed. Having two grounds be in question, having the violation still exist in the case of a revocation, and having failed to pay fines would make the decision by the third-party arbitrator simpler. It'll make the city's case for upholding that decision to deny, to suspend, or revoke simpler. It'll strengthen the city's position, strengthen their arguments. So the proposed action for the council is whether they want to continue this discussion in a night meeting, or if there's any further information they'd like to learn from the staff.
Thanks so much, Tanner. Councilor Buckle.
I like this. I would support this. The other thing that I have a question on is what if you have a rental company that owns multiple rentals and they're in violation here, here, and here? To me, that would be something I would also want to consider in not allowing them to go forward with any kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they did pay the fines and came into it, just shows that they're a repeated problem if they have multiple properties that even come in compliance in 2 weeks and then turn it around and then go back into the same issue that they did before.
This has come up in the discussions we've had as we've worked on this. So I don't know if this ordinance will address the actual effect of it. But if that LLC that you're referring to in that example has multiple properties on the same license, all the properties on that license would be affected by the denial or revocation. However, if a big company registers them under separate legal entities, we would run into a problem. And, you could argue that an ordinance like this would incentivize people to put things into separate organizations for that purpose in order to parse out the effects of that. But yes, that is something that we've talked about.
Okay. Well, I make a motion that we discuss this in a night meeting in 2 weeks.
So I was just actually rereading the language, but I can just ask is there any current mechanism to basically like be on path to compliance? Like, for example, like an active payment plan or something along those lines, or is it just purely if you have any unpaid fees, then that is grounds for, and there's no a judgment call from the city under certain circumstances?
That's a great question. So I've talked with the code enforcement team on this. They have a lot of discretion about when to enforce and when to be just, for lack of a better term, express like leniency or to work with them. I think it's either pay the fine or to create a payment plan, and we have Scott here that can confirm whether that's true or not.
Yeah, that's our intent, is that unpaid fines would be there. They have no arrangement with us to make payments to come into, full payment, because sometimes these can balloon out.
Get quite large, yeah.
They are just ignoring us, and fines are accruing over long periods of time. It may be difficult for somebody to pay, thousands of dollars all up front. But if they're willing to come into an agreement with us to make payments over time, we would not count that as a non-payment or outstanding payments. That would be, they're on a payment program. We're not going to come after your license as long as you're continuing to make those payments as agreed.
Thank you. That makes sense.
And historically, they've done a few presentations on when they work with people, and they go as far as to like rent a dumpster for them, help them do. I mean, like they go out of their way to be very considerate and helpful. All right, so Becky made a motion. I will second the motion. Any discussion on the motion? All right, we will vote. Counselor Christensen is excused. He's not online, right? Okay, Counselor Whitlock.
Yes.
Counselor Bogdan.
Yes.
Counselor Hoban.
Yes.
Counselor Whipple.
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
And Counselor McKay, yes. So that passes. All right. We will now recess the Provo Municipal Council work meeting, and we will reconvene in the pre-function room to continue the closed meeting.